Martini Giant fans. This is episode number 103, which is Mulholland Drive from 2001, directed, of course, by Mr. David Lynch and starring Naomi Watch, Laura Harring, and Justin Theroux. It is a very special episode, probably one of my favorite episodes because of something pretty special. As you know, the theme of the podcast is movies that you never got around to watching, and now you don't have to because we'll just tell you everything about it. But I had never actually seen this film myself. To me, this movie was actually my first experience. So I never got around to watching this film, and I didn't even tell the guys that until later, and they were like, "What? You never seen this film?" So to them, it was super exciting. And because this is a David Lynch film, and I literally stopped watching it 20 minutes before the show started, it was still processing what the hell was going on in this film. It's very complicated. And then I sort of was able to get through that with the guys over the course of the podcast. And it wasn't until the end that I started to realize everything that had happened. I processed it. It took me days to process it after as I was going through it. And I became very emotional, but it was such a great experience, and it made this podcast super special. So very glad I was able to do that. So it was really, really cool. Okay, a couple of quick announcements. As you guys know, we do our podcast on Twitch as well. We stream them there, so that's where you can get the live recordings and participate in part of the conversation. So that's twitch.tv/martini_giant, twitch.tv/martini_giant. And we usually do those at Saturday at 3 p.m. And that's probably what we're going to do this Saturday. We haven't picked the film yet, but I'm guessing it's going to be October Halloween-y horror type thing. At least that's what I'm going to try to convince the guys today. But you can go check it out. Just follow us on our Discord and you'll know more, or our social media channels, and find out more what the film is going to be. But again, we'd love to see you this Saturday. Also, we did start a Patreon, which is a great place if you want to support us. Patreon actually pays out much better than Twitch does in terms of support and subscriptions. So if you'd like to support us on Patreon, we would love to have your support there. Patreon.com/martinigiant. Just a small monthly donation would go a long ways for us, and we really appreciate that. And if you do that, we can get you access to our Discord. Yes, here's a QR code here for our Discord. Go check it out. It's on the YouTube. You can, if you're looking at the YouTube, you'll see the QR code up here. Go ahead and check that out and go to our Discord. And if you are a subscriber on Patreon or on Twitch, we will give you access to the subscription-only section of our Discord, which is a lot of fun. But you can just go into Discord, and don't have to be a subscriber to do it as well. There's a lot of stuff and a lot of great conversations going on there. All right, that's enough for the announcements. Let's get right to it. Mulholland Drive from 2001, directed by David Lynch. Enjoy. So for those of you who are joining us on the stream, which I don't think is anybody, because we don't normally record at this time, it's kind of unusual. But for those of you who are listening on the podcast, this is your normal podcast schedule. The reason we're doing it at a different time is because I'm going to be gone for 2 different Saturdays. And McMonkey Man is here.
Hey, nice. Wow. All right, yes. All right. Yay. Nice. I didn't think we would get any of him, but I'm awesome. Very pleased that he's showed up. That's fantastic.
Man joins us. Awesome. So, if you're listening to this podcast, you're getting it on your normal podcast schedule. But since I'll be gone for 2 Saturdays, our Twitch will be down for 2 Saturdays. So, sorry about that. So, I decided to squeeze an extra podcast in. We decided at the last minute, what should we do it on? And we sort of went on good movies that are around the 2000s. Is that what we said?
I think that was the goal. Right.
And so we picked Mulholland Drive, which I think I suggested. One of us suggested. Mm-hmm. And here's a secret. Want to hear a secret?
Yeah, go for it.
I hadn't seen it until today.
What? Oh my God.
I've been wanting to see it for a long time.
Oh
that's
my
why,
God.
That's why it's like, oh shit, I got to see this movie, because it's, it's the movie you never got around to seeing. Right?
That's crazy. Wow. Yeah. Wow. And that's a surprise.
Crazy.
It's really a surprise. I know you guys would be surprised, but boy, there's a lot to untangle this movie, but of course there is.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited for you, and I'm so excited to hear I haven't heard a first reaction to Mulholland Drive in I can't even tell you how long.
Since like, I don't know, 2001.
I was more than likely.
So, I mean, I think you guys I've said this story before about Lynch, but I hated Wild at Heart when it first came out. I was like, it's so dumb. And I didn't like the acting style. I didn't like the directing style. I didn't like a bunch of things. I was like so tired of the stupid Wizard of Oz references that were going in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then so finally, like, I listened to it and I finally started falling in love with it, but I didn't fall in love with it until after Mulholland Drive came out. So I didn't really have a huge interest in Mulholland Drive for some reason. I was like, although I did like Dune and I liked other thing that Lynch had done, but I was like, it just looks like Wild at Heart.
Right.
And then after that, I was like, I should really, because I really started to like Wild at Heart a lot. And then now I feel like, I need to, yes, I've seen Lost Highway, but now I feel like I was going to get around to seeing Mulholland Drive, and I never got around to doing it, which is kind of the theme of this podcast. Like, I'd never seen Mulholland Drive, but now, we'll tell you all about it. Don't worry about it.
That's so exciting. I can't even tell you. Yeah, I went to go see Mulholland Drive when it first came out. I was, let's see, when did that, hang on, let me get the dates on this thing correct.
Since it's also fresh, obviously it's hard for me to digest all the shit that goes on in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
So you're going to have to help me unpack some of that as well.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. Okay, Mulholland Drive release date. That's what I want to know.
2001?
It was made in 99.
It was made in 99. It came out in 2001. Yeah, check this out, dude. This is okay.
Why did it take so long to release?
It was supposed to be a TV movie. They wanted to make a mini series out of it, like a Twin Peaks type thing. Right?
And it got canceled before it even was shown. Like the studio was like, "Fuck this stupid David Lynch stuff," and they canned it. And then Lynch took it on the road, got funding from Studio Canal, and to shoot the back half of it. Essentially, like he shot the first half for $7 million. And the back half for $7 million.
Wow.
And for a $14 million picture, this is an absolutely legendary one. This is quite a monster. But yeah, so I saw this. I was in New York on Manhattan on 9/11, which is a story in itself. But I was helping a friend shoot a movie there, and I stayed to help him do that. And after 9/11, this came out in early October, middle October, and he and I saw it at the Angelica in New York, and I'm sure. Eric, you're familiar with the Angelica?
It's down the street from me, dude. I saw I saw a lot of films.
I saw that at the with my friend Ben at the Late Show at the Angelica, and it was probably the first movie I went to go see post 9/11, and I was already in an extremely weird state of mind from events, and then that thing totally just blew my mind.
Right.
Absolutely wild bit of business. So that's the frame, like sort of from the get-go, Mulholland Drive has been of my very favorite David Lynch films, and I think it's a masterpiece. But it is a big one. It's a big one.
It's a big one, and it's got a lot of stuff. Now, here's the thing. Newsman, by the way, joined us as well, so we do have an audience. I really did not expect to have anyone join us. I was just going to, but I'm excited. Okay, so it has a bit of. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad movie. It's not a bad movie at all. But I have a pet peeve about movies about the film industry.
Movies about movies, yes.
Right. Movies about movies sometimes are too meta or too inside baseball to really be, so they're only appreciated by people who make movies, which is kind of like, I like a good movie that's can be more universally seen, right? So because a lot of times you see movies like this and you say, oh, I don't get it, right? Because there's a lot of reference to the movie industry in here for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Also, things within things.
Yes. Yeah.
There's a lot of things within things in here.
Lots of things within things. I think that's David Lynch's calling card. Things within things.
Yeah. But it's very good. I will tell you that. I was super glad I saw it, and I need help with the ending.
Oh yeah. What's it all mean?
What's it all mean? But I wrote down. I sort of powered through it.
Like, I'd love to see Chris's notes, like replay scene of women.
Giant lesbian makeout.
Yeah, replay that scene to get to the core of that.
Now, what was she saying there? When
what
she
does
was
that
touching
scene
her
mean?
nipple?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Let's go over that again.
That is actually that particular. I think that's a beautiful scene, and it's actually a beautiful scene. It is a really core scene to like. That is a tragic scene to me. I guess we'll get there as to why, but I just want to put a pin on that one. That is a beautiful and tragic scene.
I love it.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Well, it's a scene that is also very male gaze.
It is very male. There's a meta.
It's very beautiful.
There's a meta aspect to it for sure. That's sort of audience critical, right? There's actually an interesting thing is that when Lynch released it on DVD, I think this is still true. That is an unslow downable scene. You cannot still frame or slow that scene down on your DVR.
That's funny.
He's just like, you're not going. I'm not putting this in there so you can this is a film, and this we have to be respectful to the actors.
I believe that technology exists in streaming, that is still possible.
Yeah, so he was like, I think that he was very. I think Lynch is one of the actual great directors of actors. He just directs them to do really bizarre things. Mm-hmm. But this is the movie that of almost everything outside of like The Elephant Man and Straight Story, this is his most directly emotional experience.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. So
give us your overall. Like, I mean, I don't want to lead the
my overall feeling.
Yeah. What did you feel about? What did you think it meant? What was your favorite stuff?
So, because of how I sort of, have come to understand Lynch better. Honestly, that's what it is, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe I matured enough to understand it, which is ironic because
you're less
his directing style and the other stuff feels very old-fashioned in some ways. There's a lot of old-fashionedness to the way he looks at things, right? And the way they talk is old-fashioned and they reference it. So it's not as, real style as some of the other movies are or whatever. Definitely not real style, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And the lighting is very much of that period as well. It's very harsh lighting and stuff.
Yep.
But it was kind of awesome to see it, to like imagine this is a new David Lynch film, but it was actually done 20 years ago, right? I mean, it felt kind of fresh to have that experience. It's like, so I think to me, what was special about it was it felt like, a piece of cake that you've saved for 20 years and it's sitting there and you're going to get to eat it. And so there was something special about it that way that I was very appreciative that I had that experience. So
sure.
I don't know what else to tell you. I mean,
it's interesting in that like most people like when there are big movies that people haven't seen, like if I know people that haven't seen 2001 stuff like that. But did you see for our listeners? So we play a game called Framed on the internet, which is basically like Wordle, but what they do is they show you a single frame.
Podcast. Sorry.
They show you a single frame of a movie, and then you have to guess the movie, and then they show you a next frame and a next frame, and you're sort of supposed to show it. And one of them was 2001 that came out a few days ago, and it started off with I believe it was the sunset, right? It was like a sunset picture.
Yeah, it's just like it's a really dark frame with a kind of a purple smear of sunset.
So I immediately knew it was 2001 because I know
that was a hard one. I got it in one, you got it in one, but everyone else I think got it.
But the second one was a bone in the air, and they're like, anyone who knew said that, oh, okay, it's 2001. I get it. So the second, but then what was interesting is that if you go to the Framed Twitter, he plays the results of everything, and everything else was like very obviously 2001, right? Like Hal, the spaceship, the everything else, right?
Right.
33% of the people didn't get 2001 at all.
That's wild. Really? Wow. I'm kind of shocked at that. If you're playing framed, you're probably a film nerd.
Right. It's strange.
That's really interesting. That's really interesting.
Yeah. So that was very strange.
Because we talked about it before.
Podcast, but it's cool. You can do whatever you want to do, buddy.
Yeah, it's like we talked about it before. Like the iconography of say something like 2001 is so in the culture. I think you told the story, like in terms of like what I think was it. I can't remember. But like the idea is that like so much of it has permeated the culture, and so many.
It's such an important iconic film.
Kubrick's anymore.
Yeah, it's like it's a part of the public art consciousness, and like it was you were saying Karen had only seen it recently, and she's like, oh, she saw
it like 10, 20 years ago, something like that. But when she saw it, it was parodied so much at that point,
right?
That it was almost like watching a parody of a parody.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like virtually every single shot from the movie is in other media, right?
You know, she watches the opening shot of the apes. She's laughing because she's thinking of History of the World, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so like, I imagine there's movies like most of the great movies that people haven't yet caught up on. I think they have the experience of like I know people that have only just saw The Big Lebowski, and like it's funny to them, but they're like, I know every joke from this because everyone has used every joke in conversation.
Yeah, it's like someone who watches Airplane is like,
yeah, it's just like every fucking bit of this is in my head already. I just didn't know it was from this. Right. But when you talk about Mulholland Drive, like how much of Mulholland Drive were you aware of before?
None.
Like zero, right? It was just absolutely.
Well, no, I did know it was about Hollywood, and I did know it was.
Oh, sure. Yeah. That's about it. You know as much as the ad, right? Yeah, exactly.
I did know that some part of it took place on Mulholland Drive, and
yes, there are people in it.
So there's cool things. Here's some cool things I discovered. Well, first of all, Naomi Watts I think is really good. She's very good. I think she's a little underrated, and it's interesting. But interestingly, what's funny? Here's some irony. This film is heavily about casting, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel that the two women were very heavily cast for their look together.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The way they look. She is like
their vibe.
I need a very blonde Grace Kelly looking innocent woman.
Yes.
And then I need a dark-haired woman who has a mysterious past.
Yeah.
She looks like Priscilla Presley.
Yeah. Like, I mean, they're very, very old school looks for the both.
Very much 1940s, 1950s, early 50s kind of look to them.
And like
she reminded me of Barbara Stanwyck, actually.
Yeah, sure, exactly. You know, and the name, yeah, she is actually quite Barbara Stanwyck. That's true. Sorry, wrong number and stuff like that. Yeah, exactly.
You're a little close to the mic, Dan. If you can.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll pull it back. But yeah, there you go. But yeah, like all of the names involved like Camilla Rhodes and stuff like this.
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah. The names
it's all super, super old school stuff, and it's trying to throw back to like.
And that woman was a famous actress from the 20s.
Oh yeah. The
landlord.
Landlord. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that there's like he's very like. Because I don't believe David Lynch doesn't explain his films. He's really explicit.
He refused to give any explanation as to what the hell's going on because obviously you have questions at the end.
Right. But I do believe that this movie in particular makes a very specific sense. Like I think he's telling a very specific story. I don't think it's just
what this movie would be interesting to pair with? Pulp Fiction.
Why? Because they both use the same diners?
It is the Winky's Diner. Yes, exactly. Right.
It's the same diners. It's the same diner, but it's also because there's a mystery thing that's going on between those.
It's the blue key and the gold box.
Case, the gold box.
Case. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And both of them really reference heavily 1940s movies. Yeah, like Pulp Fiction, like has the case itself is from,
and also has the club, which is all retro 40s.
Yeah, the retro club. Yeah, exactly. Silencio. And
I was thinking it was interesting because you know how we all talked about like in the 80s, like we're always referencing the 80s now, and it's been 40 years, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
In the 90s specifically, they would reference the 40s a lot. Remember when swing dancing became
it became a huge thing. That's right. In fact, that's the opening of this film. It's the montage of the swing dance that she wins.
Right.
And so she's the jitterbug contest rather. It's just that kind of stuff. and the bizarre sort of like what I really love. I don't often love this, but I love the after effectsiness of that sequence.
Yes.
Right? Like there's something.
It's like a title sequence at the beginning. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's like a title sequence, and it's very intentionally sort of like shitty video effecty. Like it's not like it's not trying to be classy.
It does not look high.
It makes it beautiful. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're starting into this movie. Okay, so we'll start at that. It starts off with that title sequence, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a swing dance that's going on, right?
Right. So this is a reference to you shortly find out that Diane Selwyn, which is
Betty Helms.
Betty has won a dance contest, which gets her to get like a free ticket to Hollywood, right?
Right.
And her grandparents are super enthusiastic about this, and they flew with her and saw like the whole thing. Like, this is just it's a dream come true, and now I'm going to get my chance.
My dreams and hopes are going to Hollywood to become a movie star, which is a theme of a lot of movies from the 40s as well.
Absolutely. And the tone, as you already pointed out, like the tone and the style, and most importantly, the language
music as well.
And the music as well, that is so stylish and 1940s-esque and sort of like pie in the sky, sort of like, I can just make it if I try kind of stuff. And everyone talks like this.
Right.
Right. And all the characters that she meets are like bizarre stereotypes of that kind of genre. Right. And it's a sunlit Los Angeles with a gauzy lens. And this is the tone of much of the film. As weird as the movie gets, it hangs on to that for a good long time.
Yes.
And so Betty is going to start her dream of Hollywood. But the first thing we see right after the dance competition business
is a limo.
Is a limo
driving on Mulholland Drive slowly with some strange monotone music, like ominous music.
Yes, and Angela Baldamenti special.
Right.
And it's very eerie. It's very Lynchian, and
I used to drive on Mulholland all the time because I used to go on Mulholland.
It's beautiful.
Well, there's several parts to Mulholland. We should note this because Mulholland Drive, there's the part on Hollywood Hill.
Yep, which
is gorgeous, but it's also
and the 405 on
treacherous.
Yeah, it's twisty.
It's twisty, and there's certain parts where you're like, oh crap, I can fall off. You know,
it's cliffside. Yeah, exactly.
Cliffside on the sides.
Well, it's interesting because on the Hollywood half, it's very twisty, and on the backside, on the Burbank half, is it's actually there's a long straightaway that's almost more frightening to me to drive because it's like you pick up speed without even noticing it, So like, but this thing cuts over the back of the mountains in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I mean it is basically it's the road that's on the ridge where a lot of the Laurel Canyons and Coldwater Canyons.
So lots of stars live up there, lots of big fancy houses.
Right.
It's very old Hollywood in its reference, and you see. This limousine is driving, and in the limousine is this raven-haired beauty, like 1940s style, and she's obviously a starlet of some kind. And they are going. The driver is pulling over, and she's like, "We don't stop here. This isn't.
This isn't a stop, right? Yeah, exactly.
It's not where we're supposed to go."
I should note that this limo is all just for style point. It's all decked out in this super gaudy 90s, like plush leather.
Yeah.
There's a built-in cell phone on the side, you'd like take out, like the car phone.
Yeah.
And it's got all that. It just feels like, just like when the leather just feels gross. Like I can just see that leather.
It's a great thing to point out, right? Because David Lynch, you can see through his entire filmography, he is very aware of how current styles will later be perceived.
Yeah.
And his sort of like judgment of them is present in all of his films, whether it's Blue Velvet or whatever it is. And like this one is one of his strongest because like there are a lot of things in the late 2000s, a lot of TV that looks like Mulholland Drive looks like, but Mulholland Drive looks like that on purpose and is very
making
sinister.
fun of its current era.
Everything
making
looks
fun
like
of its current era.
Friends set.
Yes, like very intentionally flat. I mean, this guy's photographed some of the best looking films in history, and he's instead like, we're going to use medium lenses and flat shots, flat light, straight on, and just like he's really aggressive about it. And then the design of the production design is like you're saying, Eric, it's very sitcom 90s.
Did you ever see you guys will probably know this, and it popped. There was a mini series that came out around this time about people that lived in an apartment building in San Francisco. What's it called?
Yes, that's one of my favorite shows. It was a
6-part miniseries.
Yeah, and it was my professor at grad school was friends with him, and I'll get you the name right now because I love
Wild Palms.
Nope,
Wild Palms that's good. That's
not Wild Palms. That's what
it's not
Wild Palms. It's not Wild Palms. It's not Wild Palms.
All right, Monkey Man knows I love Wild Palms.
It's not, and I'll tell you right now. If you just give me 1 second,
you bet.
Keep going.
But it was all like in the 60s. It was supposed to take place in the 60s.
And
during the sexual revolution in San
couple
Francisco.
Different versions of that, but the one that I love is More Tales of the City from 1998. Armistead Maupin.
That's what it's called. Tales of the City. Tales of the City.
Oh, that's right.
So it's Armistead Maupin from 1998. Olympia Dukakis, Donald
David
Moffat.
Duchovny.
Yes.
Chloe Webb, Laura Linney.
Yep.
I forgot Laura Linney was in it.
Yeah, that's the first thing I saw.
love, and because this guy that was in it, Bill, what's his name? He's cousins to a guy I went to school with, Bill Campbell.
Oh, right. Okay, great.
All right.
Yeah, like that is that's interesting. That's really interesting. Yeah, that's like a there's a Monkey Man's right to bring up Wild Palms. Wild Palms has this kind of have you guys seen Wild Palms? Really hard to find. It's a science fiction.
I remember it, but I don't remember. I remember the poster, but I didn't see it.
It's a science fiction miniseries that was on, I think, ABC.
That was Oliver Stone.
It's Oliver Stone produced it, and it was directed by a couple of different directors, but like Phil Joannou and folks like this. And it had Jim Belushi and Ernie Hudson and Kim Cattrall and fucking a connection to David Lynch is what's his name? The from Lost Highway, Robert Loggia. And it is a incredibly cool, bizarre 90s specific sci-fi miniseries. If anybody can find this thing,
they did it because of Twin Peaks.
They did because of Twin Peaks. Absolutely.
And this was supposed to be a miniseries too. So just to point that all out there.
Yep.
So they're all interconnected, and
it's all the same vibe. There's a weird vibe.
And
it's because of Lynch. It's because of Twin Peaks.
And I am excited for miniseries to come back. I'm just saying that.
I'm glad that they are starting to. I'm glad that streaming thinks about stuff in terms of miniseries now.
And I know I've brought this movie up before, but Forever is not necessarily supposed to be a miniseries, but can totally be a miniseries because it's a 9-part, 9 parts, half hour, but it has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it's perfect.
It's a story. It's a story. That's all I want. That's all I want.
So the limo's driving down. They stop somewhere, and then these crazy kids come by in their cars and crash into.
And it's a straight up. These are from the 50s. Specifically, this is like a bunch of kids in poodle skirts and like riding with the top down in a convertible.
Get out of there!
Right, and so you literally have the.
I'm going to tell your parents.
Yeah, and it's just like yay, like leaning out the roof and all this stuff.
Real, it's so fantasy.
It's so fantasy, and it's like literally the 50s slamming into the 40s. Like it's just ridiculous. But they come careening down the hill. They don't see what's coming, and they are going to be hitting the limousine. But we are in the limousine, and the car is pulled over because the driver is going to kill the woman in the back. Like he's got a gun out and he's ready to kill this woman. And she's like, what? Like, but before he can do it, the 1950s crew crashes into the car, destroys it.
Massive car crash.
Mm-hmm.
And the only person that survived the car crash is the woman.
Yes.
But she's heavily injured.
Yeah. Talk about it, like, right. It's like the scene in Wild at Heart with the woman with the head injury. Yeah, exactly.
Her mom's gonna kill me.
I gotta find my hairbrush. Yeah, exactly.
So she is injured and shocked, and wanders out of the car, and slowly wanders on the street, and then she's in the middle of Hollywood somewhere. Gets in front of an apartment, sees the apartment, sneaks into the apartment, and hides in there. Is that right? I got it. Okay.
Yep. You basically she goes down through. She crosses like Sunset. Lots of iconic.
Hollywood very iconic Hollywood intersections.
Right, and then and she sneaks into this apartment, and and that apartment is where Betty ends up living.
Yes, but more specifically, is where Aunt Ruth is currently.
Aunt Ruth,
right? Yes, so Aunt Ruth is in that apartment,
and those women are so strange. Like,
Aunt Ruth is like the perfect name for that woman.
I know, but she also looks like what? There's something so bizarre about Aunt Ruth. You forget, like
she's magnificent. That actor does. I don't know if she like got the David Lynch vibe, but she brought the David Lynch vibe.
Her pursed lips, yes.
It's absolutely fantastic.
So so she hides in the apartment to hide. And that's kind of like, I don't know what's going on. But she's clearly confused and not knowing what's exactly going on. But she's hiding.
Right.
Then we cut to the diner. We're at the Winky's Diner.
Diner, yes. Winky's.
Right. Okay, so there's two guys at the diner.
Right.
One, a younger guy talking to a slightly older guy. And he says, I wanted to bring you to this diner. A Winky's? And goes, this specific Winky's.
This specific Winky's.
Because I had a nightmare where I was here. And I was here and you were at the counter over there. And there is a horrific figure that I could see that is behind the diner. A nightmare figure. This terrifies me. It's so real. And he says, so basically I says, so you want to come here to make sure that figure is not here. Basically is what he says. He's like, all right, well, let's go. So they go, and the younger guy goes out with him, and then it's like, well, take me to where that figure is. So he takes him around the back of the Winky's Diner. There's like, it's
the dread that's building up when he
is like, oh no, I'm terrified. Yeah. But he's basically saying, I need to prove to myself that there's no horrific thing behind the Winky's Diner.
Right. In real life,
it's almost like going to a kid and saying, look, the closet, it's empty. There's no monster.
Yeah, it's empty. Right? Only this time there's a monster in it.
So he gets to the back of the thing, and there is a monster back there.
Yes.
And he is completely freaked out, faints, and passes out and dies. I believe he dies, right? Looks like he dies.
Yeah, he has a heart attack, dies. And that's it. And that's the only time you ever see these guys.
No, not true.
Oh, I'm saying yes. There's one more time. That's one more time.
But you're questioning, like, wait, what?
What the fuck is this about?
Why is this? Why are we talking about this? And then it goes to the scene of Betty arriving.
Yep.
Betty arrives in Hollywood, and she's like, "Let's here to get my hopes and dreams of Hollywood. This is so exciting, Yep. And she is being accompanied by a woman named Irene, older couple. Mm-hmm. I guess she must have met on the plane.
Yep.
Or something, right?
Yep. Yeah, so excited for you, dear.
Right.
Best time of your life.
Best of luck. Best of luck. Can't wait to see you on the silver screen.
Silver screen. Right.
And it's just like, my hopes and dreams. It's just really cliche too.
Yeah, it's super corny.
It's also like every pause is like you just want to hear, like, did they say her line for her?
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's so awkward. It's so bizarre. It's hard to even. It's
like
hard to describe.
Forgot her line. It's like it's really.
Yep. Yeah,
there's definitely a lot of that.
Now, but that's the thing, right? Because this is exactly some of the issues that I was having with Wild at Heart when I realized, like, no, this is intentional.
Yeah, because, like, for instance, we now know this was her major debut role right here, but we know that Naomi Watts is a terrific actor, right? So it's very strange to see her.
She also shows that she's a terrific actress
within the movie. Within the movie, that's coming up.
The movie that she does within the movie.
Yes,
she does a more superior role than she does as
like
her, as
in
herself.
one of my single favorite sequences in the history of film. Yes, that's coming up. But at the outset, she seems like it seems like David Lynch has hired a bad actor.
Right.
Like, it's really awkward.
Intentionally
really,
so, though.
Yes, exactly. And so it's very strange. It's a very strange performance, and it's great. Once you understand what's going on, once you see what's happening, it's particularly great. He is sort of loading the gun with that bit. Right. Because he knows that the audience has never seen Naomi Watts before and doesn't know what she's capable of. And so he's like,
"We're her first big movie, right?
This is her first big movie." And so he is slowly loading the chamber and to get you later on. And it's really, really genius. It's really genius.
Okay, so now she's arrives, etc. Now, next scene, she takes her cab to this beautiful courtyard apartment in Hollywood, right? And she talks to the landlady, who is like the typical old school Hollywood starlet who's well beyond her years.
Yeah.
Right. But still does the makeup like she was a starlet. Right.
But never had plastic surgery on this one. You can't tell.
Yeah.
You can't tell.
Yeah, that's true.
and she basically, we find out that basically she is going to be staying, or Betty is going to be staying at her Aunt Ruth's apartment.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So she gets into her apartment and is like, "Yay, Hollywood. I'm so excited. Yay, yay." And then she walks through the apartment and finds the woman from the accident in the shower.
Yes.
Behind glass.
Right.
So, but the glass has got that weird frosting.
It's frosted. You can tell that she's naked. Yeah. And it's a brilliantly awkward scene.
It's a very awkward scene.
Because you're really, because what Lynch really lights her so you can see that she's naked in the shower, but also won't let you see her. And you can see that Betty is sort of like awkwardly trying to
who are you? But she's like such a sweet little Midwestern girl or wherever she's from, right? That she's like, "Oh, this must be, I must help you with something going on," as opposed to, "Who the fuck are you? What are you doing?"
Right, exactly. Right. Exactly.
So she does that, which is kind of an interesting thing. So anyway, let me see. Okay, so then basically, does she find out that she has amnesia now, or she doesn't? I don't remember.
I forget.
I think that happens. Yeah, I think.
Okay, so basically it's either now or soon later. I don't think it's.
It's pretty soon after this. Anyway.
She finds out that basically this woman, has amnesia, right? And we realized it's the woman from the car crash. So I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. She had a big car crash and she doesn't know what the hell's happened, right? And she's going by the name of Rita.
Because she sees Rita Hayworth on a poster.
Right.
In the house.
Right. Okay. Then we cut to a scene with Adam Kessler, the director whose name is Adam Kessler, but it's actually Justin Theroux, which I was so pleased. I don't know why. I have a soft spot for Justin Theroux.
I love Justin Theroux. Yeah, he's great in this movie. He's very, very funny. He's
really, really good. And this is very young Justin Theroux. Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Because he's all. Have you seen? Did you watch? What's it called? The
Mosquito Coast?
No. The series.
Dr. Robert Stairs.
Oh yeah,
the Leftovers.
Oh, I didn't see that. I hear it's great.
Yeah, he was good in that. He was pretty good in that.
I didn't know he was in it. Actually,
he's the star of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. He's great. He's a great actor. Great actor.
So he's very good in it.
I think around this time he was known as Jennifer Aniston's husband. I may be wrong.
No,
was he already married to her? I don't think he was married to her yet.
Oh no,
he wasn't married to her yet. No. He's not married anymore, right?
No.
Oh, did they break up again?
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
But you know what's interesting about Justin Theroux is that he actually would rather be known for his writing than his acting.
Oh, that's cool.
So he's and his whole family is a big writers.
Yeah, Paul Theroux's is what grandfather or his uncle or something like that.
Right.
And Paul
but
Theroux's
he actually wrote Tropic Thunder.
That's hysterical.
Did he really?
Yeah.
That is a movie that couldn't be made today, and I love it. It's a brilliant film.
It's a movie that should be made.
Be made today. That movie needs to be made today, and nobody has the cojones to do it.
Anyway, so Justin Theroux or Adam Kesher is in a Hollywood conference room, and apparently there's a bunch of mobsters in there, right? And they're pushing him that he needs to cast this woman called Camilla Rhodes on his next picture.
It's like, I don't give a shit who you want to cast. You are casting this
Camilla
woman.
Rhodes on your next picture.
And you're going to know, because when we go through the audition, we're going to point to her and say, that's the girl. And you are going to say, that's the girl. You can have anything else you want. You can make this movie any way you want.
He's like, screw you.
Yeah.
Yeah. He gets pissed off about it.
Yeah.
He gets
says no. Yeah.
Says no. And by the way, he drives a Porsche Boxster, which is really kind of the cheapest Porsche you can get. Just pointing that out as the fact that, like, I'm going to get a Porsche, but I can't really afford a whole.
Yeah, it's
Porsche.
the lower tier director car.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Yeah. It's like the people who's like, I want a BMW, and it's like, well, I'll get a 3 Series. It's 15 years old. Okay,
yeah,
all right.
Exactly.
Now you got a BMW.
There you go. And now you pay like premium for repairs. It still looks like.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, so
great bit of production design there to give him a Boxster. That's hysterical.
Yeah. It's really funny. But anyway, he gets out of the meeting. He's pissed off. He sees a limo in the parking lot and smashes the limo because because it belongs to the Bobsters, and he's pissed off at him.
I think it was a Jack Nicholson little thing there.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Because that was right around that time.
Takes her out a golf club, smashes the shit out of this.
Right, and then drives off. Right. Then there's an interesting, weird scene, and this is a strange one. Mobsters talk to a guy in a wheelchair in this room behind glass.
Yep.
A strange looking man.
Yeah.
It's like he's like in the spotlight, very ominous looking situation.
He's also, I believe, the little person from Twin Peaks. Is that right?
Yeah.
I think so. The backwards talking character. Yeah. He's a friend of David Lynch's, and he's been in a couple of his pictures. And he's great.
Yeah.
It's great. Just totally great.
He's in a wheelchair, and he seems to be in control of everything. He's like, he claims he won't cast a girl. What do we do? He's like, well, what do you think you should do? And it's like, we shut down everything? I guess we have to shut down everything or something, whatever.
And the guy's barely not saying anything. He's just sort of like putting it together. Okay, is that what you mean?
Right. McMahon said, and the less good Iron Man 2. I don't know what he was referring to when we said that. I don't know.
Thoreau?
Okay. Anyway, did Justin Theroux write Iron Man 2? That's interesting.
I thought Iron Man 2 was Shane Black, but it might be wrong. Maybe it's Iron Man 3. But
okay, we'll have to look into that. Okay, apparently Justin Theroux wrote Iron Man 2.
Iron Man 2. There we go.
I'm assuming McMahon backs up his.
Oh yeah, I trust him.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay. So basically, obviously, a lot is hinging on this woman being cast. It's not like the mobster wants his daughter. It's like something more ominous.
Yeah, there's something sinister happening.
Sinister of making this person cast. Yeah. It's not like, he's the daughter of the Godfather or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, no. Right. Okay. And then we go to this big old comedy bit, which is hilarious, which is basically this guy who is kind of like, California dude is in an office with another California dude, and they're laughing about stuff. And they're like, yeah.
Like the skeevy producer's office that you find off of like Vine.
Yeah.
It's like super shitty.
Yeah. And then the guy standing up says, oh, that's the famous black book that belongs to, the guy who's.
That's my favorite. But that sequence is my favorite.
Oh, it's
hilarious. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. And so he goes to the book and he goes, yeah, that's the book. That's the book of the guy. It's like, yeah. And then as the guy looks down at the book, He grabs a gun with a silencer. The guy standing up grabs a gun with a silencer and shoots the guy in the head. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, he wants to steal the book. Then he tries to. The guy's flat down on the table. He tries to place the gun in his hand to look like he committed suicide.
Look like a suicide, right?
Right. Which, why would you commit suicide with a silencer? I don't know.
Exactly. That's brilliant.
Well, you're respectful of your neighbors. That's
And as he's trying to place the gun carefully on his hand so it looks like he shot himself in the head,
good.
he accidentally fires the gun again. It goes through a wall, and then you hear, as someone gets shot on the other side of the wall, and the guy goes, oh, shit. And then finally, he says, okay, so he runs next door. He finds this very oversized, this large woman who's like, some animal bit me real bad. And he's like, what's going on? And he tries to strangle her and like tackles her. Mm-hmm. And it's like the struggling. Basically, he needs to kill her too now, right? Because she's a witness, or she's got a bullet in her butt or something, right? And so then he grabs her and he's straining her. Finally, gets control of her, takes her out of the office, drags her through the hallway. As that happens, he sees at the end of the hallway is the janitor just looking at him.
Like, what the fuck are you doing?
It's so great.
At which point, he goes, he goes, help me. She's injured real bad. I need you to call call 911 on the phone. Help me. I need to help me. The guy's like, what? What's going on? And he's still like, holding his hand over her mouth so she can't say anything. Right. So he drags her in. Then finally, she gets in there. He gets her in there. He shoots her. Right? She's dead. Then the janitor comes by, walks in with the vacuum cleaner that's still on. Or no, it's still on.
Yeah, right.
He's like, okay. And then he shoots the janitor. And then the vacuum cleaner's still going. So he decides to shoot the vacuum cleaner.
Which is a beautiful touch. I think that's a really
like, why you shoot the vacuum? You just turn it off. And then the vacuum cleaner sparks, and then all this electrical stuff goes up in flames, and as smoke goes off, sets off the smoke detector. Now the siren's going off. It's like, God damn it. Like, so finally he just grabs the book, this black book, and just walks out the window, and the fire escape goes.
That's it. That's just it's comedy of errors times 10.
But that sequence too was like,
what?
What's the
happening?
book? What's going on? And you're hoping that maybe you'll get these answers. By the way, spoiler alert, you don't necessarily get the answers to this.
The movie is pretty guarded about what it's doing. Yes, it's true.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Now, so we're trying to find, so now we're back to the two girls in the apartment, and they're trying to figure out her identity. They decide to go through her purse to see maybe she has her ID, which I don't know why it took so long to do that. Right. But so
it has a very Nancy Drew flavor, this whole section.
Right.
It's like it's like the mystery of the old clock.
Right. Right. So anyway, they are where was I? Sorry. Right. So they're going through and instead they find in the purse, they find a lot of cash and an obscure blue key.
Key. Yeah.
Strange. Made by some prop department in the valley.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's beautiful. It's a blue enamel key. It's a very strange little key.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Now this is all over the place, this film. Just letting you guys know, just keep for a ride. And I wrote it all down because it was like,
what's happening? Yeah, there's a lot of like, what the hell is going on when you're first watching this movie?
Okay, so now the director, now we're with the director, and he's driving home to his big director mansion. Turns out, his wife is sleeping with some
Cyrus,
the pool guy, Gene, the pool guy.
Billy Ray Cyrus, I think.
I believe it is.
Billy Ray Cyrus?
Yeah,
it's funny.
Yeah, he's big redneck with a big mullet, and torn sleeve shirt, and she's sleeping with that guy.
Right.
He's pissed off at her, decides that to revenge for her, he grabs her jewelry box and dumps pink paint all inside
all over her jewelry. Right.
All over her jewelry. Right. He's got pink paint everywhere. For a big portion of this movie, he's walking around with pink paint.
It's so good. Yeah. And so like this goes badly. He's kicked out of his house, her house,
their house.
Yeah, their house, and he has to go, shack up in a shitty room downtown.
He's got a private little apartment thing.
Right.
Anyway, we'll get to that point. But anyway, he's get kicked out of his house, right? Or he leaves his house, or whatever he does.
Right.
But basically, his wife is screwing the pool guy, which is also a cliche,
Exactly.
Right. So then the next thing is Rita and Betty are at the Winkies.
Exactly the same seats. The same thing.
Same thing. And they are trying to figure out what's going on. As that happens, the waitress comes by and has a name tag that says Diana on it. Correct?
Yep, exactly. Diane.
At which Diane, not Diana. Diane. Yep. Sorry. At which point Rita has a flashback. It's like, I know that name. And she says Diane Selwyn.
Selwyn, yep.
Selwyn.
Diane Selwyn.
Diane Selwyn. And like, oh, okay. Well, we have something. So they look up.
They have a clue.
They look up something. And also, by the way, they also find out that they asked the cops about a car accident, and they find out there was a car accident on Mulholland Drive.
And it's really, you get to see payphones, which are
it's so nice. Yeah, it's great.
They use payphones and newspapers. Yes, they look up news on a newspaper, right?
Crazy. Come on.
You don't pick up your phone and just.
Those were the days. That's right.
A quarter meant something. God darn it!
So you could buy a car for a quarter.
Right. So then they look up Diane Selwyn in the phone book and try to call her, but they don't have an answer. Am I right? I'm kind of this so far, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the awesome line when because she's about to make the call. It's Camilla's, but not what's her name? Not Camilla.
Rita.
Rita's about to make the call, and it's because it's strange calling yourself.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. It's an interesting thing. It's
interesting twist as it gets played. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then the director is in this small, crappy apartment downtown LA. Really crappy apartment. Right.
Dingy, dangerous place. Yeah. It's
dingy, dangerous place. Right. And then the apartment manager comes up and it's like, your credit cards didn't go through or something like that. And he goes, I pay you in cash. I'm just telling you, your credit is gone. Basically meaning it's like they know you're here.
The fucking pressure is on, dude.
The pressure's on. I was like, oh, okay. And he goes, they insisted you need to go see the cowboy.
The cowboy.
Right. I was like, what? And then they tell him where the cowboy is. Okay. Okay. I don't know if this happened right after. I don't remember exactly, but I think it does. It was the cowboy. Then he goes to this weird ranch somewhere.
Way up in the hills. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think he tells this to his assistant.
Right?
He tells this to his assistant, and his assistant says, "Well, why don't you just stay at my house?" And she has this weird.
Yeah, she's like wants to hook up with him.
She wants to hook up with him. It's like, no, it'd be great. You can just stay here.
Right.
And
he's like, no, thanks, you're sweet, but yeah, I don't.
Newsman is asking, is Winky's the same place Winky Dinky dogs are from?
Winky Dinky dogs. Winky Dinky dogs.
That's a look up, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't think. No, Winky's, I think Winky's was just basically like something that's an alternate to Denny's. It's basically a Denny's.
Winky Dinky Dogs is from Hollywood Shuffle.
I think the menu, they have a lot more lighter fare. So.
Winky Dinky Dogs is from Hollywood Shuffle, and it goes along with Everybody Likes Hoe Cakes.
And I believe the Winky's is actually it
was the Denny's on Sunset, right? I thought it was
it the Denny's on Sunset?
Yeah, I thought it was a Denny's on Sunset and Sunset and I don't know.
Someone look it up because I thought it was in Culver
Sunset
City.
Plaza?
It's not the same place as it's not
like Guitar Center.
It's not the same place as
it's around by Guitar Center, around there.
And it's not the same place as Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction is actually a place I found it in. That's in the Valley. That's in rather in like Burbank or somewhere like that.
Oh, I know exactly which place it is then.
Yeah. But and then the other great diner is Big Lebowski, which I believe is the fake diner down by the LACMA.
Yeah, that's my old neighborhood. Yeah. And that's all they do is rent it out.
All they do is, it used to be an actual place, but all they do is rent that for movies now.
Okay, so he does go to see the cowboy, who is this weird, comical, wimpy guy with this giant hat.
Yeah, he's like this thin, little, pale, like no eyebrows, like he might be albinism or something like this. You don't know. And he's got this giant cowboy hat, and you're in literally a ranch,
right? Which,
night.
By the way, does exist. It does exist,
especially up there. Like there's
Topanga and places like that.
Yeah. There's a horse ranch up there.
Yeah,
and so I think they shot it up there. It's got like the cow skull with the lamp in it. And all that stuff. So it's this very sort of funny, spooky scene, and the cowboy lays it out. He's like, he
says, if you don't cast Camilla, bad things are going to happen to you.
Yeah. And it's like, you have one job. And I love one of my favorite lines is like the director is just sort of like Thoreau's just not taking him seriously at all. He's just like, okay, Mr. Big Man, Mr. Cowboy, blah, blah, blah.
You're being snapped.
Yeah. And the cowboy calls him out and says, no, can you think about that for me? And he's like, yeah, I'll think about it. And he goes, no, you're being a wiseacre. Now, can you think about that for a few seconds?
Yeah.
Like, this kind of line. But when he says, when he goes, now listen here. Let's say there's a buggy. How many drivers a buggy have? One. Well, let's say I'm driving this buggy. Like, this is the kind of conversation it is,
right.
And it's both very funny and
nerve-wracking.
It's nerve-wracking because like this guy represents some giant power. You don't know what it is, but it's old. I mean, this is why he's a cowboy. It's the oldest Hollywood. Like this is the old, deep Hollywood powers that are
the
coming
first movies, kind of
And the guy looks
kind of like in Casino, where that guy comes to visit about his nephew.
Yes,
it's the old ranchers who basically ran Vegas.
Yes. Yeah, it's like this is.
Well, I wouldn't say he's the smartest fella, but
yeah, you're gonna fucking employ him though.
I'm sorry. And De Niro's like, I'm sorry, I can't hire him.
I can't do that. No,
either he's on the take or he's dumb. Either way, I can't have this guy.
Right.
Yeah, that is exactly the same thing. Because like he is this guy, the cowboy looks like a ghost, and he is 100% the founding.
And his hat is just like the most parody hat you can get.
Yeah, but I think in that era, those hats represented a certain type of rancher or a certain type of guy who did something.
It's
really,
just massive. It's massive.
Yeah, but
he's got his whole outlook, his whole look is like that Tom Mix kind of cowboy.
That's what it is. Yeah, it's Tom Mix, 30s. There's something about the reason for the big hats like that.
Right. But it's really brilliant. It's really brilliant.
No, like they were musicians or singers or something about it that is different.
Right.
But you see it in the 30s.
Yeah, this is the oldest portion of Hollywood that's represented in the film here. And he's laying down the law. Like, you are gonna fucking cast the girl we say. That's that. Like, you can't have it any other way. And if you want to be a director in this town, this is it. That's the girl.
That's the girl.
That's the girl.
All right. Okay. So, right. Next is, then we go back to Betty, and turns out she is auditioning for a part. So she's got a part that she's auditioning for.
Right. And she says to Rita, like, can you help me out with my audition lines?
Right. And it's cheesy. It's super cheesy. She's reading the lines and it's super cheesy the way she's doing it.
Like the lines themselves are terrible. And then when they run the scene together, it's even worse. Like you're like she is like as awkward an actor as Naomi Watts seems to be in the role that Betty, right?
Right.
When she is acting now, like this is what she's here to do.
Right.
When you see her practice, she is fucking terrible.
Right.
Like she is genuinely terrible. And
Yep.
you're just like, well, this is not going to work very well for Betty.
Right.
Not going to be happening.
So she does that, and she goes, does her thing, and it's like, okay. Then she goes, I have a rehearsal in an hour. And
so go audition immediately. Yeah.
Go audition immediately.
Optimism, like my life will change.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
It's going to be great. So she shows up at the studio, and they have casting director there, a bunch of people there. Even though one of the casting directors actually, they say, is not actually casting a movie, but she is a casting director. And then you got this old school, like, because she's very pretty, right?
Yeah,
because it's old school director, and then this old school actor who's like,
he looks like a piece of wood.
Soap.
He is just a sleazy looking,
super tan George Hamilton looking motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like he is silver hair, virtually red leather, tanned face. Like he's just like
I'm gonna play this scene real close.
Yeah, you better get ready, baby.
Yeah, because he's like, I'm gonna be right up against you. Just
because the scene is written to be this older man basically dominates this younger woman who like is his daughter's friend or something like this, and like it sets up for this semi like almost rapey kind of situation. It's ultra fucking creepy. It's ultra creepy,
very creepy, very awkward, and very horrible. Right. And you're like, okay, here's her first audition in Hollywood, and this guy is like, I'm just gonna cop a feel on this young girl.
Yeah, exactly. Right? I'm gonna fucking shoot some banaka in my mouth and let's go. That's his whole point of view.
Yeah. Let's do some banaka. It's so sleazy.
It's so sleazeball.
So that's right out of your playbook, Dan, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't go the way he thinks it's going
hold on. So first of all, she goes in there and immediately she senses the tension.
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell. And then suddenly, this is the scene that we talked about earlier where she's acting, and she's acting better in this scene than she acts in the entire
film. Reveals how good an actor Naomi Watts is.
Right.
She's like, it's like more than halfway through the movie at this point, and she's like, okay, it's time for me to do my job.
Right.
And the scene that she takes complete control of the scene, and in every way,
and everyone is floored, including the actor.
Yeah, like the dude who was creeping on her, was like lording over her, and was like heading for the big makeout. Like he is absolutely dominated by her completely, like utterly controlled by her. She's in charge of the scene, and she makes it so crazy sexy. It's insane. It's insane. Like her performance is perfect. It's scary. It's weird, and she owns it 100%.
And you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Which is, of course, what she's supposed to do.
Yes.
Everyone gets surprised. The director goes like, oh my God,
he wasn't even paying attention to the director.
The actual director is like, oh yes, yeah. But everyone else is like cheering. Yes, this is incredible.
The director is like, we can do it a little bit.
Yes, there are different ways to blah blah blah.
But the producer was blown away by it. The actor, the actor is like, I like her.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Right. And meanwhile, the audience, us, is blown away. Like we didn't know that this is going to happen in this movie. And suddenly, like, she just runs out and punches us all in the face. It's just one of the best things I've ever seen.
Right. Okay, so now at this point, what happens? The casting director, who is not actually casting this film, escorts her out and says, we're taking you across the street for something else. Right. Because, and he says, that film's terrible. You don't even be involved in that film. I've got a better thing for you. Basically, is what they tell her, right?
Right.
He's like, those guys are horrible.
Yeah.
And so he's like,
that director's he's a has-been. We're just doing it as a favor. No, I'll take you to the real giant. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So she goes across the street. Hold on a second. Right. And they put her in front of they're on set, and they're casting or testing out different women. And turns out it's Adam, the director, who's casting the lead role for the movie that he's supposed to cast Camilla in. right?
Yes. So the two stories finally converge. The director and Betty.
Right. Now, the director looks back, sees Betty.
Who's that girl?
Who's that girl? She looks at him. They look at each other. They're awkward. There's a strange vibe that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But they keep they keep bringing in other women.
Mm-hmm.
And then this one woman comes in. They say, "This is Camilla Rhodes." And she does her performance, which is okay, I guess.
Sure. Fine.
And he just turns around and goes, "That's the girl."
It says the line.
It says the line that he's supposed to say.
That's the girl. I was told to say this, and here I am saying it. Yeah. That's it.
Right.
That's it.
But also, Betty freaks out before that happened, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, "I got to go," and just runs off.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So that's kind of a different, interesting thing.
Right.
So then Rita and Betty have figured out who Diane is because of the phone book. So they go to the apartment where she lives.
Mm-hmm.
And someone else is in the apartment. She goes, "No, she did used to live in this apartment. She and I have switched. So she's actually in apartment 17, I think is what it's.
Right.
And so she's now in apartment 17. So they go, it says, "Oh, hold on, I'll be with you guys in a second," says the neighbor who's now in Diane's apartment. So they walk over to Diane.
I think they were lovers, though.
No, well, we'll get
to that part. It's coming.
We'll get to that point.
Yep.
So they get to the apartment. The two, Rita and Betty, get to the apartment, knock on the door. No one answers. They decide to come in through the window.
Mm-hmm.
They get in through the window and they got themselves in. And they go to look around the apartment. They get into the bedroom and there's a person in the bed laying down, and they turn around and she's also they're covering their noses because it smells really bad.
Mm-hmm.
And turns out there's a dead body there. It's been there several days.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
lying on its side, and it's bloated and rotting.
Right.
Diane Selwyn is a corpse. No, is a corpse.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
So Rita obviously gets scared because, first of all, she realizes she is not Diane.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because the neighbor would have recognized her if she was Diane.
Right.
Right. But she's scared and she says, "Oh no, this is bad. This situation's bad. I gotta disguise myself." So she puts on a blonde wig, tries to disguise herself through this whole situation.
Right.
It's like double indemnity or something. Where the wig.
Right. So now all of a sudden,
what's with the blonde wig on?
Two blonde women. So you can see the background of our screen is the two blonde women that are together. Right.
Right.
And so, but they decide. So they're in the apartment together, and she's still wearing the blonde wig. Rita is, and they decided, there's a big bed. We can sleep in the bed together. You don't have to sleep on the couch, whatever.
Right.
And so you don't have to wear the wig in the apartment. It's just me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she says, okay. So Rita gets in the bed with her, naked, and they say goodnight to each other, and then they start making out, and they both make themselves naked, and they're totally, sexually aroused by her.
Yep.
And then Betty says, "Have you ever done this before?"
Mm-hmm.
And then Rita says, "I don't know."
Yeah, I don't know.
She's got amnesia.
Right.
And she asks, "Have you done it?" And she says, "I want to do it with you." So obviously, this is both first-time women that want to make out with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Which point, then they go to sleep, and Rita wakes up from a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
She's saying something. She's saying Club Silencio or something.
Silencio. Yeah, right.
So wake up in the middle of the night, and they decide they have to go to Club Silencio in the middle of the night, like 3:00 in the morning, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So they go to this theatrical experience in the middle of downtown LA somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an MC, and he's basically giving the speech that everything is an illusion, right?
Yep.
Or something like that nature.
Right. And he does things like there's a trumpet player, but you see that the guy's not actually playing the trumpet; it's actually a recording.
Right.
Yeah, this kind of stuff.
Right. And
All
then
right.
This woman comes out and she starts singing, crying by Roy Orbison.
Roy Orbison in Spanish.
In Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very beautiful performance. Everyone is crying, including Rita and Betty. And then she passes out, but the music keeps going. The playback keeps going.
Mm-hmm. The woman who's singing passes out, right. And it turns out that was also an illusion.
Right. And they're like, moved. And at which point, Betty grabs the purse that they had, opens it up, and finds a blue box, same color blue as the key. And they know it's the same. They look the same, right? But it's this blue box similar to the box in Hellraiser.
Right. Yes. It's a good connection right there. It's brilliant.
Yeah. That could be a Hellraiser, and Mulholland Drive would have been a good right? Yep. So she's like, what is this box doing in here? Okay. Okay. They decide to go back to the house to open the box for obvious reasons. Mm-hmm. And here is the interesting, and I watched it several times to get the sequence right. Okay. So here's what happens. Betty and Rita go in together, and they go into the bedroom, right? Betty puts the box down on the bed. Camera's still going. Mm-hmm. Camera then moves as Rita goes to the closet, takes out the hat box, which is where they put the purse with the money and the key. She turns around, same camera movement, no cuts.
Yep.
And she says, Betty, where's Betty?
Where'd Betty go?
And she starts speaking in Spanish for some reason, saying, where are you in Spanish? ¿Dónde está? And then she gets back to the room and decides to open the box.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So she puts the key in the box. She opens the box. I think this is almost an entire single take. Mm-hmm. Right? She opens the box. The box opens like a mini safe.
Mm-hmm.
But you look in the box and it's completely dark. Look, there's blackness, right? Camera goes into the box. Then you see the box drop onto the ground, open. Mm-hmm. And then the camera pans back and you see Aunt Ruth wandering around. What was that noise? Mm-hmm. And walks out. Right?
Yep.
And then it's got this strange jump cutty transition, similar to what we did from Easy Rider, where we do what's that called? Where it goes click, 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 click.
Yeah, exactly. When it cuts back and forth, instead of doing a dissolve, it's a stutter cut.
Stutter cut. That's what it is. And that stutter cut goes into the apartment that Diane lived in.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And of course, as you should always do in any movie that involves something creepy and scary, you move the camera forward. Camera moves forward, right? Camera moves forward, slowly entering the room, and you see the girl that was dead in the bed in the same
lying on her side,
lying on her side, same position that you found her when she was dead.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see the cowboy walk through and tell her, "Time to wake up, little girl."
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, you hear knocking on the door. Knocking. Mm-hmm. And then Diane, turns out she's not dead, gets up.
Yep.
Right?
Looking a little haggard.
Also looking exactly like Betty.
She is Betty.
Right?
Yep. Only now she is Diane.
She is Diane. And we know she's Diane because she answers the door and the neighbor comes by. Mm-hmm. And as Eric said, yes, they were lovers. Mm-hmm. She's like, I want my stuff, like my lamp and my dishes. Mm-hmm. And so Diane gives her stuff. And then there's a blue key that's left on the table, right? Is that what happens?
Yeah, I believe that's right. Yep.
It's another blue key. But this is not the same key that was in the box. It looks like a regular house key. It just happens to be dyed blue. Or blue.
Yeah, like it's kind of shitty.
Metal.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not the fancy weird blue key. It's a
okay. So at this point, we start to realize this whole story's gone sideways. This is not a linear story anymore.
Right.
This has gone completely.
It's 2/3 at least through the movie, and it goes, okay, let's fucking change everything.
Yeah. Okay, so it's like, okay, so now her name is Diane,
mm-hmm.
and it's the other. It's Anna. That's correct, Jason.
Yeah, the Anna is the key, the blue key.
Okay, so now it's so Diane. So now the next thing is she is in the apartment and she's topless and she goes to the couch to make out with Rita.
Yeah.
Right? So Rita's there and they're just getting busy and she is really into it. Diane now, right? But Rita tells her we shouldn't do this anymore. And she gets super aggressive towards
super
Diane.
bad. Yeah.
Like she's like, no, she puts her hand down her pants, like we're gonna have sex together or whatever. Like super aggressive.
Yeah.
And then Rita says, no, we can't do this anymore. We have to stop. And then she says, it's because of him, isn't it? It's because of him. And it's like, okay, and so now we can see that Diane is very upset at this situation. Then we are on set and Rita is now on set. And we quickly realize that Rita is now, her name is Camilla.
Camilla. That's right.
So Rita is actually Camilla, not the Camilla that we saw early in the movie that got cast.
Camilla, the other Camilla is this sort of, as a blonde woman, another blonde woman. And this is a totally different. So it is Rita is actually Camilla.
Right.
And then we will soon see who the other blonde woman is in relation to that.
Right.
Yes.
So Betty is now Diane. And Rita is now Camilla.
Right.
Okay. Now Adam is trying to give pointers to the actor, and he says, "I'm not trying to tell you how to act, but you should do it a little bit more like this." And it's a scene in a car, right? And he just starts saying like how to make out with her, and he just starts
making
out with her like hardcore. Now, interestingly, Rita is into it, or not? Sorry, not Rita. Camilla is into it.
Yeah.
Right, and so they're all doing well.
Right,
and then but Diane is on set witnessing all of this and is just enraged with jealousy.
Which she tells her to watch too.
Yeah.
Like
let her stay.
Yeah, let her stay. Yeah, like there's some bad shit going on.
And Camilla's just treating Diane like terrible.
Crap. Yeah, she's just a bad person.
Right.
Just a bad person.
Really, and there's all the massive jealousy of what's going on.
Yep.
And then it's the opening of the movie again.
Suddenly.
Which is the limo driving on Mulholland Drive, right? Except Diane is in the car, not Camilla.
Right.
And they're like, wait, the car stops. It's like, you're not supposed to stop here, right? But instead of them trying to kill her, Camilla shows up, find a secret passage to the house to go up to the house, right?
And this shot is a really lovely, poignant shot for me. Like when they're walking through the path, the house is really beautiful and haunting. And I just want to,
and it's got that beautiful, like anywhere on top of the Hollywood Hills when you're looking down on the valley. Or
it's just incredible. And like it's weird because like you've seen Camilla be obviously a bad person to Diane, but like this one scene where they're walking together, like it sort of encapsulates the real love that at least Diane was feeling. Like there's a romance to going through this weird, I don't know, like garden.
But do you believe that it's real at that point?
I think that it's just representing the feeling that Diane really has. Like this like so like it's not just I am angry at Camilla or anything like this. Like there's a real like heavy, like the music is beautiful, the scene is strange, and they're walking together, and like it sort of captures like some prehistory to the whatever badness is going on. So you're just like they must have they had a relationship that she thought was valid, and she's
it's basically back. Like well, that she continues to treat her like shit.
Oh yeah, I mean Camilla's still doing the Camilla thing, but you can really get an emotional point of view from Diane of like
it's also hopeful. She's hopeful, but I think that Camilla's doing it on purpose. Like she wants her to feel hopeful, so that when she gets up there, she can treat her like shit.
She knows she's going to get married.
Yeah,
right.
Like she's just going to fucking smash this. Absolutely smash it. Yeah,
yeah. Okay, so they arrive at the house, and guess whose house it is? It is the director's house, Adam's house, right? Also find out that the landlord is now his mother.
Yes. Yeah.
Adam's mother.
Adam's mother is the former landlord for Betty.
Right. Okay. So they are now at a party. Camilla is continuing to antagonize Betty. Mm-hmm. Betty is being smacked down quite a bit. It's very sad. But then she makes out with the director in front of her.
Mm-hmm.
Pisses her off. And then he leaves. And then the actress who was playing Camilla in the earlier part of the movie,
Camilla, right?
The other Camilla, she shows up. Do we know her name? She doesn't say her name, right?
I don't think she gets the name. Right.
Yeah. She shows up, and then she whispers something to the new Camilla,
mm-hmm.
and then makes out with her
mm-hmm.
in front of Betty again.
Yep. No chance, Betty.
Yeah. This just sends, not Betty, sorry, Diane. This sends Diane into a tirade.
Yeah.
And she goes, and she turns around, and it's a great transition because she turns around like this, and then it cuts to a scene in the diner
mm-hmm.
where she turns around in anger because there's a noise in the diner. Someone drops some plates.
Yeah, it's a great match cut. Yeah,
it's a great match cut.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's true.
And then she's talking to the dumb hitman who killed all those folks.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Who did the terrible botch job stuff, and so
he has his little black book with him.
He has a little black book
that he stole from the guy. Yeah, right.
But all we know is he's not a very good hitman. Right.
Yes, he's a fucking shitty Hollywood criminal. Like he's not like he's nobody.
Right. And so he says, "Well, are you sure? Because the minute you hand me that money, then it's all over.
Done.
The deal is done.
Done. Right." And it's like, yeah. And then he says, he says, I will leave you this key after it's all done at the place I told you. I think that's
mm-hmm.
what he says. Like that. And then she said, what does it open? And he just snickers at her, right?
Right.
And then you see the guy from the first diner scene. He's at the counter.
Yes.
Looking at them.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
That's the only thing, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Then we get to her in her apartment, really upset,
mm-hmm.
spiraling out of control.
Yeah. Depressed,
angry,
crazy.
Believably so, too. Really.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the entire tone of the movie, we should say, has changed. Like it's gone from luminous Hollywood story to like gritty realism of a depressed and collapsing person. Yeah,
the shittiness of Hollywood is definitely being revealed.
Right. And Naomi Watts' performance is equally realistic.
Yes,
like she's no longer Betty.
She's put her performance. Yeah, all of her Diane performance is very real.
It's 100%. This is an actual person who is living in a shitty apartment, can't get work. Everything is
failed relationships.
Yep. Has seen someone who she was probably in a relationship with, like become successful in a way that she is not becoming. Like her career is a failure and everything is a disaster.
Right. Okay. Then she starts to have illusions. There's something weird happens
mm-hmm.
where the old couple from the airport come in as miniatures under the crack of the door.
Well, she receives she's got the key, right? Did she get the key back?
Yeah.
So she gets the key, and that's when she starts like, so essentially the deal's been done.
Right.
And that's when she starts losing her. Like and one of the saddest scenes in the movie is when she when she masturbates on the couch.
That was so good, dude.
It's so fucking heart-wrenching to me. It's insane. Like, she's angry and crying, and she's trying to get off, but she can't get off. And just like, it's fucking horrible. It's horrible. Like, it's so desperate and lonely and self-hating, and it's a brilliant, brilliant performance. And all you can see is like you see from her point of view, the ceiling going in and out of focus, you know? And it's just an incredible, incredible bit of filmmaking and a terrific performance from Watts. Yeah. And so when she finally gets the key, you know, like she's lost. Like she's like, the assassin or whatever he is has done whatever he said he was going to do, and now it's all fucked. Right. Like, and she started, and her mind starts, you know, going
really desperate.
Yeah. And so the these weird characters are coming under the crack of the door, everything else, and then she kills herself.
And then exactly, like, she's going crazy with guilt and shame and everything else, and it gets quite manic and very hallucinatory, and then she pulls a gun out of the drawer, blows her own head off.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the movie.
And that's the end of the movie. Exactly.
Yep.
So yeah. Okay. So what does that mean?
So what did I mean? Yeah. What were you? What were your impressions as the movie changed?
I got interested in it. I didn't expect. I mean, because it almost becomes like a weird sci-fi thing, right? Like,
right.
Like, and I didn't expect that in this. I expected a much more traditional mystery, right? But I knew that, you know, once they went to the tone changed to me when they went to the theater to see the Silencio.
Yeah, that's the first like big break where you're like, this something weird is happening, like something supernatural.
Big break because you started to feel this is not real.
Well, because he literally tells you everything is an illusion, so you know, like, okay, wait, hold on, something, it's going to get weird, right? Like, so I think that's basically where that is.
It's the first time where the movie sort of breaks the rules of moviedom. You know, it's like things are happening that aren't allowed to happen in the kind of movie that you're watching.
Right.
You know? And like, there's a hint of it in that, like, she is actually an incredible actor. You know, like that feels like what the fuck is going on? Like, I mean, and by comparison, like, you know, any other weird shit, like the cowboy seems realistic compared to her being a great actor. You know, and it's a total shock. But once you hit the Club Silencio, like, that's when things become unstable.
Right. So yeah, it's very, very interesting, like how that all happened, and it's just, but there's the tone changed. It just, like, the whole movie changed, and suddenly you're like, wait a minute. You kind of question, like, okay, what's going on, and how is it going to change again? Right? Is it going to go down? Is this a time travel film too? That's another
right. Yeah, exactly. Who knows? Like, yeah, right.
Because obviously something happened. It's the box. You go in the box, and then your box is to an alternate universe in some ways. Like, I think that's what. And the other thing that was interesting is, like, Betty put the box on the bed, and then Betty disappears from the scene. Did she go into the box? But the box was never opened, right?
Yes.
Or
what is the box?
What is the box? What's in the box? And did Rita imagine Betty? Right?
It's interesting. Yeah, it's an interesting way to look at it.
So is that what it was that was going on?
I think this movie is very, I mean, I'll say what I think it is if you want me to say it.
Yeah, sure.
But like, I think that this is the very first shot of the movie, the very first shot, and it goes by because you don't even know what's happening yet, is a point of view camera going down on a pillow, and it goes to black. And the the next 2/3 of the film are Diane's guilty, shameful dream of everything in her life. And then she wakes up and her reality comes back to her. And so everything that you're seeing is versions and aspects
of her
of her real life being voiced
mixed together
in I see
dream. And it's like, so you have, you know, and like all the and it is really, now I look at it as like, this is probably the greatest dream film ever made. Like, this feels so much like a dream. I didn't realize it was a dream the first time I saw it.
All right. Okay, so you believe that basically the entire beginning is the dream that Diane is having when she's
70% of the movie is a dream.
And then so it's a dream, and that's why the acting is all weird and stuff like that.
She's in this luminous version of Hollywood that she was dreaming it would be.
Right. Yeah. And she's solving crimes. And she's a woman who has insomnia.
Because in the beginning, she's kind of a naive good girl.
Yep, exactly. Right. Like she wishes this were the reality.
So, and then she dreams of her relationship, her blossoming relationship with Camilla, but turns out Camilla's
just using her.
Like, so that's when she wakes up, she's in a much more real state.
Yeah,
in a lot of ways.
Exactly. Yeah, because like this is the thing, is I think that like both, I think it's like something along
that actually makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, like Camilla and her were, you know, they're both trying to become successful actors, and they probably were both up for the same role.
Right.
And then Camilla gets it, and then
she's Diane like, stick around. And, you know, we could
exactly. Like, she gets a fucking second banana roll, and then Camilla hooks up with the director, you know, and so like Diane has this whole like reasoning going on in her dream state of just like, these are the reasons why I didn't get the role.
I didn't get the role because the mobsters were behind it.
The mobsters. It's old Hollywood. It's the whatever it is. And I'm a genius actor, obviously, and you can see that.
And the jitterbug competition is so strange.
Exactly. This is just not how you get a job. Exactly. That does not happen. These things don't happen.
That makes a lot of sense.
I think that's what that woman had, the older actress that was played the landlord. I think that was her, probably how she got into the business.
Yeah, like that's an old story. That's an old story. You know, like that makes sense. But all this stuff is like, so like when, you know, she's dreaming about like the two guys at Winky's, like that's her and the assassin, essentially. Like she's dreaming that scene again, and she's like, she knows something fucking terrible comes out of this, that she doesn't know what it is. And like essentially she finds her, like the guy finding the woman in the dumpster, the weird monster woman, like that's the true Diane. Like
she's the monster.
Yeah, she is discovering that she's a monster. You know, like this is the worst possible thing.
Right.
And so like you have she has the dream about, you know, like the part of the dream is about
that makes a lot more sense, because basically that means that when she was in the diner with the guy, she saw the other guys, and that's why she inserted him into her dream as that whole sequence.
Yep.
Right. And that's how she managed that. Because it's okay. So to me, at first I was like, I thought that it's when you go in the box, you're actually going in the past.
Yeah, sure.
But you're going in the future.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the thing is, like nobody, like Lynch has never validated any of this.
No, he's never validated. But really, what it is like she's dreaming of her early days and happy days as a young actress, which a lot more ambitious.
And now she's a fucking failure who lives in the shittiest part of Hollywood. And like she's, you know, her ex is like hitting it big with this director, and you know,
and then she's in a relationship that she had another relationship with the other neighbor.
Yep, the other neighbor
didn't go well at all.
Yeah. And it's just like, and I love that each one of them like has, like, because Camilla's hooked up with the blonde, who is the Camilla of the dream, right? And so, like, she's this sort of like Dianified version, right? And the next door neighbor that Diane hooks up with has a Camilla-ness to her, you know, like they're like,
and then they both wear blonde wigs at one point.
And they both wear blonde wigs. Like, man, it's just like, because like she wants to romanticize Camilla. It's just like, what if you weren't the betrayer? Like, what if you were the person? What if you could forget that all this nonsense and just have amnesia about it, and then I could just have you to myself, and you can, and then you become more like me, like to the point where you're literally wearing a wig that makes you look like me, you know. And so the desperate sort of, I don't want to say narcissism, but like the again, I don't know, I guess that's the best word, like the narcissism of her love for Camilla is really interesting to me, because like it's like she was in love with Camilla for sure, but the vengefulness of like Camilla becomes successful and she doesn't, and all, like she wants to bring Camilla down to her level, right? Like, please, like, you just live with me in my special little house. Don't, you know, like be like me, be Diane. Don't become Hollywood superstar. And so when like that love scene between the two of them is it's so beautiful, and it's so real, but it's also like, this is how it also represents how everything that Diane loses and everything that she will never have again, you know.
Right.
And to sort of bookend that with when she's masturbating on the couch is like it's just like the loneliness is so extreme in that film. It's really heartbreaking every time I see it. Really, really amazing film. Right.
But it is interesting because it totally takes, and for a good reason, it takes the audience in a state of confusion.
Yeah, exactly. Like you want to believe in the dream as much as anybody else. Like you're just like, I'm in a consistent world where things can be wonderful, you know.
Right.
And once that starts to fall apart, like you can't help but be incredibly unsettled.
But do you think he could have made it more? Do you think he could have made it more clear that it was a dream, or do you think because
you do because there was this impossible realism to it where it's like, I'm going to have a good time and goodbye, dear, at the airport, and I'm in stuff. And I see the Hollywood in the distance as I leave crappy LAX. It's just like, okay, that's the kind of naive optimism of the late 40s and 50s.
Right.
But yeah, that was the clue. Like, this is potentially not real.
Well, what's really funny is that, like,
the cowboy says it's time to wake up.
Time to wake up. Yeah, it's time to wake up. So you'll see me one more time if you're good, and two more times if you're bad.
No, but I'm saying, when you start the film and you see her at the airport and coming, and the way she talks to the woman at the house, which that house wasn't far from where I used to live, is just not real. There was like this kind of strange dialogue, and we mentioned it earlier. Like, it was almost like they almost forgot their lines, but it was forced to give it a sense like this is not real.
It's hammy.
No one
awkward.
is this. Right. No one is this naive.
Right.
There's something that's not real about this, and that's the thing. And then once everything else comes in, there's also a surreal violence. Like, the cowboy was surreally and violent and scary. Everything was over the top. Like, the thug guy was huge guy.
Yeah, huge.
Right. It was just all this.
And like, those details, like the pink paint is a wonderful detail. Like, that's a dream detail. Like, that's something that happens in a dream. You're like, what the fuck is that? You just left with it, you know.
But the thing is, what a lot of nobody forgets, but for me, I've always loved Lynch because he started out as a painter.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm watching this again. I'm like, man, he's just like Rauschenberg. Rauschenberg has these presets of concepts and visual cues, and then he just starts layering them and materials and building the contrast of color and texture, but with those configured set, whether it's a space stuff or John F. Kennedy or found stuff. And he does the same thing. He just kind of layers this stuff, which he has this preset. And the only time where he really says this is all a painting is when she answers she's in her jeans. But then when she answers her phone, that's actually, I mean, to me, I was like, wait, that's a Hopper painting because of the light and the color. And that is a Hopper painting, and I'll find it now and post it for you guys.
Yeah, the lonely apartment look. Yeah, right. That's right.
And that's it. That was like a painter. And that was because she was in her jeans masturbating, and then all of a sudden the phone rings, she gets up and she's in that outfit, and it's all a painting. It's all these montages.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And so for me, it's like he had this concept and he just kind of pastes stuff together. And, you know, he is kind of does that assemblage, décollagé or whatever thing. That's his style too of artwork. And it is that. It's kind of, you know, here are my characters or pieces, and I'm building a story from that. And
because like all this stuff,
so extreme.
Right, because like the reason why he doesn't want to tell you what's going on in his movies is because he wants you to tell you.
Because he doesn't know himself.
He's digging this stuff up. Like he's put it like, and I think it makes perfect sense to him, and I think it makes perfect sense to me. But I'm glad that he didn't tell me, because like I want that.
Don't want to know.
Yeah, like I want to understand it for my experience of this movie. And I think that's what he wants for the audience. He's not like, I'm not here to interpret this for you. Like you interpret it for you.
That idea of like, you don't want to know. Yeah. If that was a true story and the girl died, everybody in her hometown was like, oh, I don't even want to know.
Horrible.
How
and it's a very common story.
And, you know, it's just that you don't want to know.
Yeah. And like, that's the beauty of it. Because the thing is, like, now the first time I saw it, I was the same with you, Chris. I was just like, I loved it. I don't know what the fuck that was. I have no idea what just happened. Like I didn't get it at all, you know. And now I've seen it so many times. Like now I'm like, how did I not see what was
it makes
right in front of me? Yeah, it's like it's weird, but
it makes total sense. But I think let's go back to that a little bit and talk about that situation, because there are movies that are like, you know, like The Sixth Sense, right?
Yeah. Tell me if this comes through,
like,
guys.
Aha, he was dead the whole time, and they're like, but this doesn't tell you that.
Here's what I was thinking. Pardon me. This is what I was thinking. Check the chat. See if that comes through. That's the painting I thought about when I saw it. I was like, wait a minute, that's a Hopper.
100%. Yeah, it's a classic. Yeah, it's great. It's great. And like, in fact, like not only like if this is the painting he's referencing, it's even more brilliant. Like this is it for anyone listening.
The lamp. The lamp shade on the table.
I think she
had like a chinoiserie type of
whole new level of brilliance for this movie. Everybody, okay, so like this is the for people that are just listening to this, the painting is Edward Hopper's where is it?
New York movie?
Yeah, and it's a painting of a woman in like she must be, it looks like she's a bellhop or something like this.
Yeah, she works at a movie theater.
Works at a movie theater, and she's waiting in the sort of the lit half of a hallway outside of a movie theater as the movie is playing. And like and once you pointed out the lamp, I was like, that is the fucking lamp. That's exactly the lamp. That's 100%. And so this is about a woman who is outside of the movie business. Like she can't be in the same room with the dream that's happening. Like that's utterly brilliant. Yeah, good caller. That's exactly right. It's gorgeous. Yeah, I've seen this painting many times. I never made the connection. That's
when I saw it, I was like, wait a minute, that's Hopper. Down to like, because I love that style, period. Like I'm a huge Ashcan fan, and he was trained by Robert Henry, who was like really the master of that school of turn of the century, getting the gritty New York. And then he went off to do his own thing, and it captures this mood.
That's incredible.
And most production designers love. You can't go wrong with Hopper, dude.
Oh, dude. I mean, I think that's like it's like when we were talking about Uncut Gems last week, and I dropped the bit with that. It's actually the Safdie architect is their great uncle.
Oh, Moshe Safdie, yeah.
Moshe Safdie. I mean, like that's the look that you had in your face when I said that is the look that I think I just had on my face when you said that that's a Hopper painting, and then showed me the Hopper painting, because I'm like, that's the cherry on the sundae of this movie for me now. I'm just
telling you, he used that. That's totally
like that made that validates what we're saying about the film. Like that's exactly right. It's really, really something. But that's the thing, dude. It's like with the like, I'm fine with movies that explain what happens. That's okay. But it doesn't come from me, and it doesn't, like when The Sixth Sense goes, he's a ghost, right? Then I'm like, oh, it's a surprise. But it didn't occur to me.
But it's a one-liner
It's a one-liner. Yeah.
I hated that movie because, like, first of all, I figured it out earlier, so therefore the whole movie's over at that point.
Yeah, it's a long movie once you know. It's a long
right? Movie. It's like if you figure it out in the first half hour and then you're just going to wait till the end, it's like, what's the point of me staying in this theater? And that's the pro. All of his movies are like that.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, I'm talking about M. Night Shyamalan. Ding dong.
Yeah. Who's a very talented filmmaker in terms of his actual shooting.
He could be, but I think his ego got the best of him, and he was like, he was trying to do, like, he was a person making what he thought was smart movies, but only dumb people liked them. Because, like, sorry, Sign was terrible.
Yeah, well, Signs is really good up until the end. Then it's retroactively incredibly dumb, and like the problem.
So is the one with the people falling out of the sky or whatever the hell that one was.
Oh yeah, there's loads of things wrong with The Happening, but yeah, like
The Happening, and then The Village was. I mean, it went to like it. They're all one-liners.
Yeah, like these are like his actual filmmaking, his scene-to-scene filmmaking skills are excellent. Like his framing is good. He takes his time.
Do you remember when his first movie came out? They said he's the next Spielberg.
Yeah. Yeah, and he definitely heard that, boy. that no one should have said that, because that definitely wrecked his career. Like, because I feel like that dude, like, he has wonderful imagery. He builds his scenes really nicely when he's doing a set piece. He's got excellent, like, real filmmaking skills to him. But the real problem with him is that it isn't so much that he's an egotistical, narcissist who wants to put himself in his movies, which a lot of people say. There are plenty of egotistical narcissists who make great movies.
Sure.
The problem with him is that he doesn't trust the audience. Like, he thinks the audience is dumb, so he treats them like dummies.
Which is what Lynch did not do.
And Lynch does not do that. Lynch is like, this. If
he
this
gives
is
you a
mean
challenge,
anything,
yeah.
If this is going to mean something to you, it has to mean something to you. I can't tell you what it means.
Right.
And by letting it be yours. That's why the movie is so special, because like there's plenty of movies that are shitty because like it was all a dream in the end, like, but in this, the fact that it's a dream is the saddest possible thing. Like, sorry, I get really emotional about this movie. Like, it's so heartbreaking, and it's only more heartbreaking the more you see the movie. Like, it's a real sad film to be watching.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
She's devastated.
Yeah, and people think of Lynch as just like, oh, he's just weird to be weird. Like, I mean, he's got something really powerful to say with this movie, and he just doesn't want to say it. He wants it to occur to you.
What I think is weird was interesting. Okay, this is an interesting thing. You normally, if you were to tell this story in a traditional way, right? You would go through her entire journey and slowly see her downfall happen.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
You'd see it. It'd be like, I don't know, like
if you did a good job,
like Scarface, like
exactly. Or like if you did a really good job, you get Boogie Nights. Like Boogie Nights tells this kind of story.
Right. So slowly see that downfall of her career.
Right.
And that would be the truth. But instead of doing that, he makes it completely surreal.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's this whole, now that you say it's a dream sequence, totally makes sense, right? Makes this whole dream sequence, and then obviously, but the thing is, what's strange is that you don't get the character development that you originally had.
Right.
You're thrown into, suddenly this is Diane.
Yeah, and it's like, oh no.
Wait, what? What's Diane? I thought she was dead, right?
Yeah, and she is inside, and she will be outside,
right?
But like, when she's when she sees the body on the,
she sees herself.
Basically. She's seeing herself, and so like that's why when I watch it now and you hear lines like, "It's weird calling yourself," like you go, "Yeah, that's what the dream is doing for you." Right there.
Yeah, but it was Rita who said that.
It's Rita because, but again, like Rita is just Rita in the dream is an aspect of Diane. Like, it's not the real Rita. We see the real Rita, and the real Rita is a fucking jerk. But the dream Rita, the dream Camilla, is everything that Diane. It's not just everything Diane wants in terms of a person that she wants to be with. It's everything she wants to have happen to her.
Who is the monster behind the diner?
The actor is a different actor.
I know.
Yeah, like symbolically,
I think it's supposed to be Camilla.
That's
years
true.
later. But I noticed, I thought that too on this round, but then the hands were a man's hand. On the last one.
Like the actor has been in a number of things, but like I think it's Camilla. I think it's Diane. You know, I think it's like this is her, the thing that she is.
Who was the actor? Roy Trowbridge.
Good old Roy, man. I haven't seen him since that movie with Ernest Borgnine. But yeah, but like I think that she is that creature is symbolic of what Diane fears the most. Like it's literally a homeless woman in Hollywood. Yeah, living behind a dumpster. You know, and that's where she's headed. Like that's where she's headed. That's where she's going to end up.
But like, she was fearing that, but then she didn't. She offed herself.
Yeah, if she hadn't killed herself, she would have literally become that woman.
I know.
You know, because like the next stop is like, well, use lots of drugs, and then next stop after that is homelessness, and next stop after that is living behind the fucking Winkies.
Right.
Like, that's pretty much it. You know, but also I do agree with you that it's also there is a Camilla, like it's the
I think no, because here's why I think it's Camilla, because she's in the diner making the deal to get Camilla offed, right?
Yeah, right.
And so that's the moment where she's like, that's when when you pass me the money, it's over, right?
It's over. Well,
and so that's when she passed the money. She sees that other guy and she says, "Oh my God, this is the moment." She didn't actually kill her herself, but the minute she gave the money away, that was the act of doing that.
That was the killing.
And so she noticed that guy at the counter when she did that, and that's why he got inserted into her dream.
Yep.
And he's like, "I have this nightmare face."
Yep.
Right, and I'm terrified of it.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. And like, because that's the way, like, that's certainly the way that dreams work for me. You know, like they have to do with my life, but like it's all mixed up. You know, it's like it grabs images from things I just happened to see that day and plugs them into other things. And like it's so accurate in how it represents that tone. That, like I said, I missed it. Like it was just like it felt so weirdly normal, you know, in a way,
right?
It's horrific to be snapped back to reality in that movie. It's like, get back to the dream, dude. This is the worst. Really, really insane, really insane. And I love Lynch across the board. I think he's just incredible. But, like,
well, it's interesting. I mean, there's a lot more to think about what each of those weird elements were from the movie, and now what they mean now that you've gone through that whole process. But just thinking about. The thing is, Diane is acting very real, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Camilla and Adam are both comically, like they're still acting like they're in the dream. They're not acting.
Yeah, because you're seeing it basically from Diane's point of view. Like you're still seeing that lens. You know, it's like they're like Camilla and Adam are Hollywood villains now to her.
Right.
Like, and it's just like, you know, they live in the hills and it's fucking fantastic. And they're and Camilla's like being not just like mean, she's being like
she's trying to hurt her.
Really cruel. Like she's being like it's sadistic. Like she's being sadistic. And which is probably not really happening, but it is certainly how Diane feels.
Right.
Well, she does kind of get bitchy with her, like she's kissing the director.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a lot of elements of her, like
I don't think that Camilla's a good person. I think she's probably, you know, like Diane is projecting an awful lot of her own dreams on Camilla.
Right.
And so she's like the person that Diane is failing to fall in love with is herself.
Right.
Like, and I think that's the real key is like she's externalizing everything that's happening to her, and then the flip side is she blames everything external when it's her fault. You know, like she can't accept responsibility good, and she can't accept responsibility bad.
Yeah, and she's also, you know, the fact is we witness her going into two relationships, right?
Mm-hmm.
She has a relationship with, in reality, shall we say, she has a relationship with with a neighbor, and also has a relationship with Camilla.
Right.
And it was interesting if you go back to all these different areas and think about what they mean, right? When she goes to neighbor, no, we switched apartments, right? Mm-hmm. So that actually happened somehow. So that's part of the reality that was in there.
Yep. Exactly.
So, yeah.
It's one of these movies where I'm just like, I don't think anyone had, only David Lynch could have made this movie so well. Anybody else would have been too literal about it, or anybody else would have given it away or explained it or any of that stuff. And to have complete commitment, it's not even a movie that he can make at any other point in his career. It has to happen exactly the way that it happened.
Right. But it wasn't easy, as you were saying earlier.
Right. I don't think this would have been as good if he had finished it as a TV show. I think it's an incredible blessing that it got canned, and he was forced to sum it up as a tight little experience, because he must have been devastated when he shot all this great stuff and then was got the rug pulled out from underneath him. But he persisted, and it made him work harder to make something even better. And I admire the guy. I literally watch David Lynch every single morning give the weather report and draw the number from the day from a jar of lottery balls. And he's been doing it for years, and Saturdays and Sundays, and every single day on YouTube he does it. He gets another 2 minutes, and he's such a tremendous artistic inspiration just in that he's committed to doing this silly little thing. It's just phenomenal. He's an utter hero of mine, absolute hero.
Didn't you send some weird David Lynch thing, Eric, to us a few months or a couple ago? I don't remember. It was some David Lynch in the Valley doing some weird art piece thing.
Somebody I know was in his last film, his television show that he did. Okay. What was the last thing he did?
Pardon
me. He was working with him for a couple of years.
There's a guy I know who worked with him. He did a bunch of Cartier things with him. He did some.
He was an actor in his show in the movie.
Okay.
He did a couple new movies. There was a show he did 2-3 years ago, and he was one of the stars.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, Lynch likes his people, man. You see the same crew pop up again and again.
Yeah, he's very much like Nashville.
Altman.
Yeah, he has a troupe.
Yeah,
an acting troupe.
Yeah, wouldn't you prefer that? If you could just do it anyway.
Wasn't the studio system an acting troupe?
Yeah, basically. I don't know. I've always thought the studio system. I don't have anything good to say about the studio system was abusive and terrible for sure, right? But I feel that there's a hybrid version of that works. If you have it's because Britain kind of does this. They have shops where it's all the actors are all they all work on the same shit. They all always work together. The directors are all the same. We rotate them out and all this stuff. It's just that the studio system took advantage of it rather than did something good with it. Because it seems like being an actor shouldn't be such a risky profession to get into. I feel like you should be able to get a job at a company, and you're always going to have work every week doing something. There's plenty of fucking shit to be made, I don't know. I'm just to play background.
But that's the same. That's the same with art department.
Mm-hmm.
Same stuff. It's killed it, in a way, because the studio guys, art departments were brilliant, great artists every day.
Right. Yeah, it's really the way the industry works. It's it's Hollywood step backwards into operating the way that it does, and it's it should work like theater, and instead it works like some weird cutthroat, horrible industry.
Well, the 70s.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. Yeah, it's better to operate with small crews that you always work with. Everyone knows each other. There's no egos. and you just jam through it, because you see that in all of Lynch's films. You see like Freddie Jones, and like all these people come back again and again and again. And when they show up on set, David, Lynch is like, "Hey, Freddie," and it's a great time.
So, what was the scene with the guy in the wheelchair?
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's the immediate the immediate Hollywood power structure. Is like there's just an unknown person.
And that was played by Daryl Hall of Hall & Oates.
Of course, Daryl, so good, so wonderful, even these days. But yeah, that like the network, like obviously associates the network of Hollywood today
Star Chamber type of.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the Mafia plus, and the motivations of
the Illuminati.
Yeah, exactly.
The Scientologists.
And so even like this like the person in the wheelchair is just like has nothing to do with real everyday life whatsoever. Right. Like his motivations are completely opaque, and he's just like in a way, I almost think that dude is the audience. Like he's just making demands, and you don't know why. Like, you have to service him though. Like it's got to go the way he says, and we're just gonna follow whatever the fucking audience is. Whatever they're going to buy tickets to is what we're going to make.
All right.
And I think that's the it's that he's this very removed, sort of a strange personality behind glass in a wheelchair that can't communicate with anybody. It's sort of fantastic.
Yeah.
Listen to me.
Yep.
All right. Listen, I still want to talk about stuff, so we're not going to take a break, but I want to take a quick break because I have to the restroom real bad.
No
so there's a 2-minute break, and then we can get back to it. But we'll more to come in 2 minutes. You guys know the drill. If you guys are subscribers, you will not have ads. If you are subscribers, you won't have ads. So Eric and Dan will chitter chatter for a couple minutes.
That's what we do best.
Restroom. All right, be back in
Chitter chatter.
All right,
chitter chatter.
So did you ever finish Heat?
I got a new copy, and I'm back at it. So I'll have a report very shortly. It's fantastic. I'm still with Chris Shahirlis of Val Kilmer in Paraguay, or wherever he is. Yeah. And he's just met the daughter of the boss that he's working for.
Oh, okay.
So that's basically where it's at. But I'm gonna try and plow through the rest of it this week. What a fucking book, dude! Wow. And I even got the good stuff. According to you, I haven't got to the Mexicali stuff.
No, that's so good.
I can't wait. Yeah, I really good. I hope that he gets to make a movie out of this thing. I don't know how he's going to do it, but yeah. Well, I hope that Ferrari does good business. It's like I saw a picture of Adam Driver who's in it, and they did a wonderful makeup job. He is a sort of like older Ferrari, and he looks crazy. Looks great. So I think it's going to work.
Adam Driver's a great actor.
He's like straight up out of the 70s Al Pacino level dude. I love that guy. I love him. He can be as many Star Wars movies as he wants, as long as he keeps on pumping out all the other stuff. He's always good. Always good.
Always good.
Yep. But yeah, no, I'm very pleased with that book. That's really terrific. Really terrific.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to finish up my people that can see the video. I'm going to finish up reading here The Twilight World by Werner Herzog, his novel.
How is that?
It's wonderful. Yeah, it's very short. It's very sad and slightly funny, and it has the same tone as the narration that Herzog uses in his documentaries. And it's really quite excellent. So. And I also just saw, I didn't know this, but a couple of years ago, David Cronenberg wrote a novel. So I might have to order that as well. And continue on with my director's series of novelists. It's worked out well. So I love Tarantino's book.
Yeah, I like that.
He's spectacular.
All right.
It's worked out very well. Yo. Well, I'm so excited for you, man. It's a rare thing when I don't think there's a movie out there that I haven't that is waiting for me to see it. Like that was waiting for you to see it.
No, that's not true. I think I don't know. There's movies that you haven't seen that you've seen and you enjoyed out of nowhere. but not something that's been sitting there.
That's what I mean.
Waiting. Yeah.
Right. Where it's just like, there might be, I don't know. But like all the big ones all the movies that people have told me to see, I think I've seen all the major ones. Right. And now there's probably like 50 or 60 movies that I know that will be great when I see them. But Mulholland Drive is one of those like very special experiences.
It definitely is, and I think it's got something interesting. And I think I don't always like movies that force you to watch it twice. You know what I mean?
Right.
Right, because that's not. I don't think that's fair either. I think movies should be able to stand on their own.
Right. Well, movies should be. I think it's fair to say, like, movies should. If it's going to be a see it twice movie, the first time shouldn't be a bad time. Like,
there shouldn't be a time where you're like, like, you know, that Eric and I feel the same way about Tenet.
Yeah, Tenet's a great example.
It's forcing you to watch it twice.
Right. I know. As you guys know, I've come to love Tenet. I think Tenet.
That's because you watched it twice, but I shouldn't feel like I'm obligated.
I agree. That. If there's a flaw, is like that movie is only a C- the first time around.
No. When this movie ended, I knew I had to watch it again, but I loved the experience I had.
Right.
Already.
Right. It already delivered a meal. It already delivered a meal,
and now it's just like the good aftertaste, maybe.
Yes, exactly.
You know? Like, you have to see a painting twice to understand it.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Well, I would say that like my understanding
the next day.
My understanding of things changes over time. Like there are movies like Apocalypse Now. I think I said this on our show. Like every time I see that movie, that's a slightly different movie. If I wait, like I wait a couple of years and see it again, I'm like I feel differently, in a totally different way than I did the last time. It's like it changes. Like you're examining jewelry from multiple angles, and
that's
as
real
we age,
art.
It really says something.
It's real artwork.
Yeah, exactly. Like it keeps on giving you something every time you come and look at it, because it's ultimately it's a lens to look at yourself. That's what great art really does. It's like look at your own beliefs, look at your internal workings, whatever it is. Like
art is supposed to be reflective in some ways, right?
Yeah, right. It gives you a new viewpoint, and if you have changed, then your view of that art will have changed because it's you.
Right. Now let's go further into this, right? Because I think that there's more, besides all that. Do you feel that this is a metaphor for Lynch himself and Hollywood?
Yes.
And I say that just as I got
some of it,
Daniel a mouthful of spaghetti.
I feel like some of it is like the guy in the wheelchair is complete lack of
because
control.
If you think about this fact, even this film itself wasn't going to get made, and
it was fucked over.
He was fucked over. And so, in a sense, this movie is a reflection.
Essentially, knuckleheads or cowboys.
Yeah.
Some dopey cowboy controls my life.
Exactly.
I can't get to make the movie that. Yeah. So I think that there's a reflection here.
I think you're right, man. I think he is, because when you hear him talk, like he never talks about, for instance, Dune. And now I think Dune it's a broken movie, but it's a good movie.
But it's not the movie he wanted to make.
It's not the movie he wanted to make. And he they took control away from him.
Did he
quite hardcore
it or whatever? No, he didn't.
Yeah, he did on the long cut. Like he was just like, no, I'm going to take responsibility for what I put out, but this long cut bullshit that you guys released, like I don't want my name on that. It's even worse. But yeah, he's so resentful of that experience that he rarely ever talks about it. And I think that's his vision of the Hollywood machine. He's just like, why do people that don't care about art, why are they in charge of art? Why is this happening? And yeah, it's the cowboy. Yeah, it's just like, what the fuck is going on? Like the cowboy's like, hey man, sometimes there's a buggy. I mean, how many drivers a buggy have?
One.
That's the way it goes. And I gotta agree with him. I'm just like, because unlike most movies that represent Hollywood, like my experience in Hollywood is not an immediately negative one. Like I never met anybody who is a total fucking jerk. Like I met loads of nice, very smart, very interested people, and everyone that I was pitching to about everything. but it does go nowhere, and they are only interested in making, like, using you as an excuse to grind out the paste they're going to sell.
Right.
They may be perfectly fine people, but like the mechanism, it's like, this is a toothpaste machine. Well, I don't know what else you're talking about.
Right.
Burger in, burger out.
Burger in, burger out. Like,
right.
Don't get your hopes up. That's not what's going on here.
And I think that, if you will sort of, we're in a similar situation now with what's going on in Hollywood,
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty, I had, you guys know, I met with my good friend, Donna yesterday, and I was talking about stuff, and she was asking me about, studios, and she said, oh, it's like, the studio system right now, she said it herself, and this is a woman who ran fucking Universal.
Yeah, she's big time, dude. She's as big time as anyone knows.
Universal Studios. And she's like, the studios right now is like, it's just broken. She said it herself. It's like, unless you're making Marvel superhero films, don't Universal, Warner Brothers, Paramount, all those guys are scrambling. They don't know what the hell's going on. It's just the only place interesting things are happening right now is streaming.
Without a doubt.
It's like, that's great stuff. It's like, now, she was basically saying, like, a movie that's designed to be a theatrical release, it's not happening. So there are definitely movies that are streaming that they'll say, we'll put it out in theaters, for shits and giggles.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. But it's really been designed for the streaming world.
Yeah.
Like, these are what the movies are now. They're not, what's an example? Like, oh, okay, Knives Out 2 is coming out.
Sure.
Yeah, right? I saw that trailer.
Right.
And it's not called Knives Out 2. I forgot what it's called.
The Glass Onion.
Right.
Yes.
And so I was like, okay, well, that looks cool, right? But they're doing a theatrical release, but they don't really need to.
Oh, they don't give a shit. They're just doing that to make sure they can secure the Academy Awards.
Right.
Like, that's literally the only reason. Doesn't make any difference. They're not going to make any money off of the thing.
Right. Isn't it sad? No money in movies.
There's no money in movies. This is the thing. Like, the reason why fucking streaming has gotten, like, and the thing is, I don't want to overblow it. Like, 99% of television is still disastrously terrible. But the reason why there have been examples of true greatness lately is because there are filmmakers who would normally be making movies for theaters now making cinema experiences for streaming. That's like, this is what's happening. And
also, when there's a huge demand. Okay, so the problem with the theater system is that there's literally only so many physical theaters to put movies into, right? That's why there's shows by, like, what's Show West or whatever, where they basically the studios have to pitch to the theater systems how important their movie is, and they decide how many screens they get of their movies, right? So there's only so many movies that go onto the theater. Now with streaming, that's a billion screens.
Yeah, there's
every house is a screen, right?
Yeah. And there's no limit. There's always when.
So that means that you can make all the movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
As much cash as you can throw it. The only limitation isn't like how many movies can be showed this summer. It's like all of them.
Yeah, you can make it. Just make them. Just make them.
The problem is they've been thinking like that. They still have a lot of debt to service.
Oh yeah,
they still do. Well, you're absolutely right. At some points, the rooster's going to come the coop.
Yeah,
but the limitation of, like, we don't want to take any risks in the movie theater because we don't want to have a bomb, right? Because think about the economy of the theater system. It was broken, man.
Oh, it's
broken.
COVID didn't help.
Yeah.
And what's also interesting now is that, how you get paid is different.
Yeah.
Right. So producers, for example, right? Producers used to get this thing. It was like, I get points on the film. If the movie's a hit, I'm rich, right? That's not the case anymore. Now everyone just gets paid upfront, because there's no profit on movies anymore. There's no box office profit.
There's no back end deal.
So you just get paid a normal amount. And now here's interesting. I talked to a friend of mine who's, being big in the producer side of things as well, not Diane, someone else, but he was like, now they're like, okay, we will pay you, your producer fee will be, $1 million.
X amount.
$1 million. And we're like, oh shit, that's awesome. Okay. You get $1 million. It's like, yep, but it's going to take 3 years.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Right.
So you're like,
and you have to be completely exclusive to this project. You can't take on any other work. So suddenly, like, okay, I'm a big producer. I know $300,000 a year sounds like a lot of money, but that's not as much money as a normal producer makes by a long shot.
yeah, exactly.
No.
Right.
Most producers are making $1 million, $2 million a year, or something along those lines, right? And suddenly, like, nope, you're just getting 300,000, and you can't do anything else.
Yep.
For the next 3 years.
Yeah, you're locked in.
Why are they doing that? So they just get totally them, and or is it just to get rid of?
No, just because they like that's the fee, right? Yep. And there's enough.
I know, but why
projects? There's enough because there's enough projects out there that people are saying yes. Right. And they're just like, that's the new
well, yeah, because now
wage.
Yeah, like, yeah, exactly. Because like everybody in this, like the Coen brothers are basically journeyman directors to studios or to streamers now.
Sure.
Like you just go like, listen, we're gonna get someone to come in and direct this fucking shit. So we'd like it to be you because you have greater name value, but don't get too high on yourself.
Yeah,
we don't care.
Now, granted, that's not always the case. Though, hold on a second, Eric. Just one real quick question. That's not always the case because obviously the guys who did Game of Thrones, right? They got a shit ton of money to do Lord of the Rings. Remember that?
Right.
Now they stepped away from that thing, but they still got a bunch of money on it. Like it was like a $300 million deal. It was insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they got that when GOT was.
Yeah, they made the deal before it bombed.
Yeah. You know, they negotiated that deal up front, probably when
because they also got the Star Wars deal.
My thing is, and the question I was trying to ask earlier, is this exclusivity thing? Why are they putting that on producers? Like, do they really need to see them every day? No. So there is something behind keeping that lowball 1 million and spread it out over 3 years, but the exclusivity contract. Why are they doing that? Is what I'm curious. What's the modus? What is behind?
What's the motivation?
That?
I don't know. I'll ask.
You know what I mean? Because that's
next time I see Donna, I'll ask her.
My guess
is a big deal.
My guess is that essentially, like, they want you to break your balls doing the thing, right? So you have to be exclusive and not be diddling away with other projects.
Well, I think it's literally supply and demand. I think it's like there's plenty of people who will do it for this much.
Yeah, right? Like I'm gonna pay you to do a thing. I want you to only do that
for
thing.
$1 million.
I'm sure Fincher gets a deal with Netflix, whereas like he's got a X amount of year thing to make X amount of projects, and he's doing great. Listen, he's doing great. And Fincher's
exclusivity, meaning he can only work on one project at a time.
No.
That's what you said.
He's not getting that deal. I'm talking about the regular
him. I'm just saying
people in general. Guys, regular producers.
What I'm asking is, it doesn't have to deal with Fincher. What I'm saying is, what is the reasoning why a producer who's got, say, 4 films under his belt has to sign a deal where the only job he can do for 3 years is the film for the studio that's going to pay him $1 million up front?
Well, I can take a crack at it if you want.
Yeah, I know. I find that really kind of like there's something sinister behind that.
Because
what's the end game?
Because they need a producer. They don't like, but there's no back end deals anymore. Like, so
there's no points to get.
There's no points in the back end because there's no back end theatrical at all.
Right.
And
they just pay X amount of dollars.
Right. So now it's just a service job.
Yes, it's a service.
I'm going to pay you to do this thing for me. I need you to produce this movie, right? And it's not like old Fancy Town where like you're a producer and you're working all around town and get all these things made, points in the back end. No, this is a job. I'm paid to do the job, and I expect you to be working on that job day in, day out. So
they're essentially saying they're just going to hire shitty producers.
Yeah, it's a job. It's like working at fucking Kmart.
That's all it is. No. They're not going to get top notch. They're just going to say, go stand in there. That's the only thing you can work on. So they're going to get C-level producers. Up to a point. No, what A-level guy is going to say?
Say yes to that, right?
Well, hold on. I'll tell you exactly. There is going to be a level where they need to get eyeball because they're still competing for eyeballs on the screen. Mm-hmm. And so at some point they need to hire quality ones to make sure that they get more attention than other ones. They are relying on word of mouth. Word of mouth is going to be very big in the streaming.
It's the only thing that matters at all in streaming. That's the only thing that matters. The advertising doesn't matter in streaming at all. It's all word of mouth. That's the end of it. Stars don't matter in streaming. Like none of that.
What's up?
All that's gone.
What's up?
No, it wasn't answered, but that's fine. I'm not going
to. No, I'm sorry. I want to answer your question. I do want to answer your question.
It was quoted to me that studios are saying to producers, you can only work for us. It's a 3-year deal. It's $1 million flat up front.
That's what I said. Yes.
Yes. So I'm trying to see what producer would take that, because in those 3 years, he could at least get on the
junior
ground
producer.
floor. Well, that's what it is, the C+ level, because there's no way, in that time, you can just meet other people and put a preliminary deal together on something else. And if that's a hit, you can be attached to 7 projects. And it might take 7 years to make, but that's setting the groundwork. You can't do that. That's basically saying, you used to work at UPS, come produce for us.
That's the answer. You have your answer.
Crazy.
That's the answer.
Yeah, that's crazy. But
I think that is true up to a point, but I do think that they're still trying to find golden boys, right? So the general producers are getting that, but I think that other producers, there are still, I'm sure there are producers that are getting $10 million, $20 million, $100 million deals, right? Definitely, like the guys from Game of Thrones or whatever, right?
Well, they're a proven entity. That's why.
Yeah, and Fincher, listen, Fincher's doing stuff for Netflix. He's been doing stuff for Netflix. By the way, sorry.
Proven entity.
But more than proven entity, he started it.
Of course.
He started it with House of Cards.
Yep.
House of Cards was a Fincher project that he's like, I'm going to.
That changed how it worked.
Changed all of Hollywood. So Fincher is the beginning of this.
Eric Roth is.
Huh?
Eric Roth wrote the pilot.
Yeah, no, it's great. But like the Fincher going in, and Fincher had a vision as to how all this can work.
Right.
And Game of Thrones, I won't say it. Like House of Cards felt incredibly new.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of streaming, it was just like, holy shit! This.
I remember because I worked on it briefly. I helped with the inauguration scene in the first episode or whatever it was, or the pilot episode. And then I remember Lisa telling me. Lisa was our VFX producer on it, and she says, "Yeah, it's David Fincher." I was like, "Oh, wow!" And it says, "It's for Netflix." And I was like, "Wait a minute, Netflix is doing directly for Netflix?" Because Netflix had done some, I think they'd done some own productions, but they were really small potato stuff.
DVD rentals.
Yeah,
I know.
But then this was like, "Oh, this is big," and I remember thinking, "It's like this is going to change. This is going to fuck up all of Hollywood."
This is why I say everyone looks at me crazy when I'm like, it's the next indie breakthrough is going to be independent groups on YouTube putting their shit up. Is like, because everyone thinks YouTube. It's like people used to think YouTube was cat videos, and people used to think Netflix was DVDs in the mail. Like, look at where the fucking where does the money come from? Creativity. Where's the creativity?
The next thing. There's a debate.
I don't know.
Right?
That's a
the debate is places clear. So there's a couple of places it can be. It can be Netflix. Sorry, not we already established that Netflix is already, it's a transition phase, shall we say? Possibly. I don't know. It could change because you know what Netflix has done is it adapted really well. It started off as a DVD place and figure out what's that.
I was drawing from an old book.
I love it.
Nice.
Great. Beautiful.
Nice. New subscribers. By the way, if anyone wants to subscribe, Eric will send you that drawing. We would appreciate the subscription.
It's a
1 month subscription. Go ahead and throw it in.
Grand Illusion from this book.
Oh, that's Eric von Stroheim, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. I just want to we've discussed this before, but there was a movement, and the movement is still there, although it's much quieter than it was 6 or 9 months ago, for the crypto world to be a location for you to. So
I'm going to go and say this. I actually think what Dan was just mentioning. My personal take. It's not YouTube. It's going to be crypto. Right. Since I work for a company that does crypto, or at least we do metaverse stuff. Because here's what I think the problem with YouTube is, and I read all sorts of newspapers. As an independent, I kind of just like to get the perspective. I know that they're demonetizing and all the other kind of trickery that YouTube does. It's going to be really hard for filmmakers. They're going to switch and they're just going to screw over one filmmaker and say, well, actually, we own a percentage if you read page 3673.
Yeah, they'll fuck it up in the same way that
they're going to fuck it up.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, absolutely. You're 100% right, Eric. I believe what you're saying. Although YouTube somehow has still didn't fuck it up as bad as Facebook did. Facebook fucked up things really badly, and they're paying for it dearly. YouTube kind of figured out a balance where they're able to keep YouTube the most important content provider of everything. By the way, of everything.
Right.
Yeah, bigger than Netflix, bigger than anything. Right.
If YouTube is smart, they will not fuck with things. Right. If they're dumb,
they are will. Because a lot of the artists
they have fucked with a few things. You're absolutely right, Eric. They have absolutely fucked with a few things. Now, I want to talk about crypto real quick because I think you're right. The crypto is the right alternative.
I just want to say one thing. Patreon. Yeah. A lot of the great painters that I follow on YouTube all left for Patreon because they were demonetized.
Well, when I say YouTube, just to clarify, like what I mean by YouTube is that everyone who I follow on YouTube makes a lot of money. They make money through Patreon. They don't make any money on YouTube. They don't even try to make money on YouTube.
Yeah. Okay.
And so the mechanism.
Should we be going on Patreon, by the way?
Yes.
Yeah. True. And
should we basically stop with all this subscribing on Twitch and just go to Patreon?
Like this is the deal, right? It's like,
I honestly, I'll ask our users, like our listeners right now, like, do you guys, want us to go on Patreon? And if you want to support us on Patreon and you'd feel better about that, I'm more than happy to start up a Patreon page. I have thought about it, but I haven't done it.
Right.
I'll start up a Patreon for us. And if that feels like you guys are giving more of your dollars directly to us rather than through Twitch or whatever else, I'm happy to do it. I mean, the fact is, distribution platforms, Twitch is still great for streaming.
Yeah.
I mean, not necessarily great for monetization.
So you can replace everything I'm saying with, say, Twitch as well. Like YouTube isn't the factor that matters. The thing that the YouTube is a platform.
Then I stand corrected.
No, YouTube is a platform that displays things. That's all it does, right? And so the future of filmmaking is for artists to make the things they want to make for the audience that wants to watch it, and no middlemen whatsoever, except for that you put it up on a platform for free for it to be seen, and then you make all the money directly from the people who want to see your product, and there's no fucking middlemen studio bullshit. There's no need for it literally at all, and we just haven't made the mental change to do anything else.
So if the
cinemas were very smart, they'd cut deals with Patreon and YouTube filmmakers to say, we'll stream digitally all your stuff.
Patreon is a middleman.
Percentage on.
No, is it as long as you can get paid by the people that you service, and the people, like, whatever, Patreon, as long as Patreon never cares what you make and has no influence over the content you make, and they only want the grift, then they're great. If YouTube it's just like, we'll give you a free platform, we're not going to let you make any money, and we get all the ad money, that's great. That's a great deal. That's
never going to happen because someone's going to want to make child pornography and put that up on Patreon to get money for it. So
luckily that's illegal. Like that's illegal.
An ethics, yeah.
I understand what you're saying, but like at some point there's a line for everything.
Well, I understand there's always someone you got to pay in order to get the thing done. But the fact is that the distance between the audience and the creatives is near to zero as it ever has been since caveman days. Yeah. And so
NFTs.
And if NFTs can position themselves to be, this is how artists retain their rights and make sure they get paid, because it is an object that I created that is valuable, then that's the way it's going to go. But whatever
the The ledger is code. It is not subjective situation.
Yes,
now,
exactly. Like, no, you don't want other fucking people, studios making any creative decisions at all. You want to own your artwork and sell it directly.
On a side note, this is an important part because there's been huge news on the crypto world that I don't know if you guys know in the last.
The merge.
The merge happened.
Yeah. Well, tonight.
Tonight. It's happening. It's tonight it's happening, right?
Yes.
Do you know about this, Daniel?
None.
Okay. So most NFTs, the majority of 99% of NFTs are built on the Ethereum platform. Right? Yeah. Ethereum has been is a platform that allows for many different kinds of blockchains, well beyond what Bitcoin can do. Bitcoin can only do money. It can't do non-fungible tokens. It can only do fungible tokens.
And there's a lot of layer 2 solutions for Ethereum where a lot of other people build.
So other people were building on top of Ethereum to get layer 2s to make different flexible things, right?
Right. Okay.
And one of the things that the layer 2s were doing was, the problem, as you know, with all of crypto is that every time you want to add something to the blockchain, the way to do it was you need to do what's called a proof of work scenario, where people were competing to solve a puzzle, and whoever won got to put the block in there and got paid a small portion of the block for the fuel fees, right? Which was a huge amount of compute that for every block added to the blockchain, which is a huge amount of compute, mainly done through GPUs that added to it. So that was how much does it cost me to add something to the blockchain? It was a lot of fuel, gas fees, right? But it was literally a lot of actual electricity used to make that happen. And so people would go to places where the gas prices or electricity prices were cheap, like Mongolia, and they were mostly coal-based places, right? And so Mongolia had huge crypto farm.
Yeah, their kilowatt hour was the cheapest in the world. But a lot of these guys are also, there's really a smart group of guys who are basically buying old power plants in Canada and South America. And their power plants set up with, water that flows through it or next to it and generates. Right. Water generation, old plates.
Hydro.
And they use those to run the GPUs.
But most of the time, everyone was used. It was a big outcry on NFTs are destroying the planet, right? NFTs are destroying the planet. That was the big outcry, that mostly from people who have really no idea how it is no, I heard they use so much electricity that it's destroying the planet.
We can say that electricity use is destroying the planet. That's true.
Right.
But why we're picking on NFTs as opposed to people playing Xbox?
Because you can add the money. You can actually add it up. I mean, each block was costing about 25 kilowatt hours, to do it, which is like your whole house. The amount of electricity your entire house uses for a whole day, right? To make each block out there. That's a lot of electricity, right? And if you look at Bitcoin, like Bitcoin uses as much electricity as all of Argentina, right? So just that in itself.
No, it's ridiculous. It's insane.
Okay. No. Right. So what happened is the merge. And what merge does is completely change the way that you actually add a block to the blockchain. And instead of actually relying on proof of work, it relies on something called proof of stake. And what proof of stake means is, instead of actually trying to solve a puzzle, because solving the puzzle problem makes things so random that no one can hack the system.
Right.
That's the whole point. The whole point is making it solve a really complicated problem, and everyone has to race to solve it. And whoever solves it gets it, where you can't say, I am guaranteed to solve it. That's the encryption. You're solving an encryption problem, right? Mm-hmm. And so by solving it completely randomly, you guarantee that no one can have an actual control over it anymore. But with proof of stake, what you do is, instead of relying on the randomness of solving a problem to guarantee authenticity, is every time you want to solve the problem, you actually take your own blocks on the blockchain, meaning your money, and you stake them.
Right.
So if your block is bad or is corrupt, you lose all that money.
Right.
And and so basically you're putting your collateral against your stake, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a different way of thinking. And he's like, oh, well, then someone just a bunch of money is like, no, there's ways that proof of stake actually have been thought about for a very long time, by a lot of people.
I get little emails every week over my money I earned on proof of stake.
Right. And so the amount of energy used by proof of stake versus proof of work is 99.988% less energy.
I know, but I'll be honest with you, as someone who does stake, I'm kind of sad. I miss burning coal. And it's like, man, it could have been so nice. Much better. We could have just fucking seen clouds in the air. No.
Anyway,
so there's a little bit of that.
The point being that now people who were crying like crypto guys are destroying the planet, that argument's gone. Yeah, and because wait till proof of stake happens, and I was like, I'll
be honest with you, a lot of that.
Yeah, I'll see it when it happens, because it was not happening for many years. It took a long time to get it right.
Right.
So we'll see if it actually works correct, but it is happening tonight, and that could change a lot of the perception of NFTs.
This is the thing. It's I think that NFTs, I think, are at the level that they're at now in terms of how, say, game studios are trying to use them and all this stuff. That's a real shit show. Those are obviously designed to scam the dumb and make quick turnaround cash on useless things. That's right. When you look at but this is going to happen with any new thing. The fucking used car salesmen come in and then poison the waters, and sure. that's why it looks bad right now. The thing I'm still sort of agnostic to NFTs as a reality, but the thing that gets talked about that I'm interested in is for when you create product,
you get a percentage.
If you create a work of art, it is as part of the nature of the art, it is going to pay you because it is yours. And once it gets out in the world, you always
get
a
percentage.
You get a percentage of it. If they can make that happen in a real way for abstract things like writing screenplays, making.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this because I was thinking about this in a way that was interesting. If you're a really smart coder, and you're not necessarily a good artist, but you're a really smart coder, and you figured out a bunch of things that could work. What if you created a really smart AI art generator?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Then you took that art generator and you created a system that would scour the internet to find things of interest and automatically make NFTs of all of the thing that you think is going to get everyone's attention.
A robot cash machine that sends money home all the time?
A robot cash machine that just makes art and NFTs and just does that.
Yes.
I saw this morning, and I'm going to be very careful because I'm an NDA. I saw this morning at work during our tech meeting, something somebody wrote that is kind of borders on what you are talking about, Chris.
That's exciting.
And I was like, what? And then I was thinking internally, and I'm not going to internally, why would you develop for our company? This is something that could be made,
right.
If you went out on your own and quit your job, right?
Right.
It was so
send that thing out there.
Cool. I was like, what? And we were all just like, okay, we're totally this is another one. But there's some other people working on similar things, but that's right. Where it's going. I just want to get back to one thing before I was cut off. Rudely by you guys.
I did not cut you off.
What I'm saying is, when they say, and I've noticed this, people say, oh, the NFTs, the environment, all this bullshit, I truly feel like a majority of the wealthy or the world, I think they're tired of seeing nerds make a ton of money. Ever since Bill Gates, there's been so many like dorks making money. And I think people, because it goes against everything in high school, and now all of a sudden they're like, well, it ruins the environment. It's like, no, he's a smart guy making money. So I really do think people have trouble with the tech sector of people really changing the world and making money.
You may be right, Eric, but I also think it's just amount of massive misinformation because so many people they believe the misinformation. Like, do you know anything?
They believe it off face value because they automatically don't like.
They read the news that
they don't like dorky dudes. Oh, these nerds in their closets are ruining the world. That's basically they don't like them and they're pissed off because they're really
you don't
rich.
Like nerds either.
Me?
Yeah.
What do you mean nerds? What are you talking about?
Well, the thing is, like most people.
Really, I hate nerds.
Most people I know who are against NFTs are very nerdy, but they're a different flavor of nerd. Like they are like.
I'm talking about the press and the way they just spin the rest of the world and country.
Like that, because I think what you're talking about, like tech bros are not what like the people I know who are nerds would not identify themselves as tech bros. They do not like tech bros, right? The people I know who don't like NFTs are artists who don't see the value.
Saying nerds. The point is, there's a group, the Silicon Valley style group, who basically have been dominant since Bill Gates, and tech I think bros, a lot of people are sick of that.
Yeah, I think I agree with you.
I'll tell you, having gone to NFTLA, there were definitely a group of people there that are like, oh,
yeah. It's like all the MBAs and
compared to the rest of the world.
Go ahead, Eric.
Compared to the rest of the world and what people do for a living, there's a lot of unknown stuff. I have shared. My family is fairly intelligent and done well. I show them AI stuff, and they're just like, I don't understand this. What is the reason? They almost like they're borderline angry. It's like, okay, I'm just sharing AI generated art. I can explain more to you, but there's a sense of like, what are these? What is this you're doing? Why didn't people just, it's just the whole world's like part of it.
It is all these things. And like I said, like I don't have any feelings. I don't know enough about NFTs to feel strongly one way or the other. That's where I'm at. But I do know that the people that do feel strongly in an ideological way that has nothing to do with being convinced it's a good idea or not. Like, they don't like you're saying, like they don't like people like Elon Musk, and anything that's in that sphere of operations, they're going to just say it is bad, and they'll find a way to describe it so that it is bad in a way that you can't fight against. Like say it's bad for the environment. Well, like I'm sure, okay, it's bad for the environment, like everything else is, because we use electricity that fucking burns coal that fucks everything up. So there's lots of things we could stop doing. If you're that concerned, there's other things we can do.
Don't take vacations.
So, right. So this is these are all ideological points of view that people are going to stick to regardless. And so I don't mean that as pro or pro or con NFT. I don't have any skin in the game on that. But it's just like when people get like super crazy, passionate, and angry about something, then it's usually that they're angry about that's sort of a near spiritual concept, as opposed to whether they think something is good or bad. Like it's something that's
they don't understand it as well.
Well, that's also true, but they don't like. And this, I mean this for everybody.
Angry what they don't understand.
Yeah, but this is true for everybody. I have things that I'm ideological about that I am like that about.
I had the same issue when I was I was going through the freaking deep fakes art. Like I was on several panels about deep fakes just before the pandemic, where it was like, oh my God, it's going to completely disrupt the election. Everyone's going to have deep fakes of different politicians. Well, okay, by the way, that didn't happen. But you know what happened? People just lied. And it turns out that was just as effective.
Yeah, you don't have to fucking have a computer to convince people of bad ideas.
Yeah. No, people just lied, and then they didn't need deep fakes to actually convince people. They just the freaking QAnon Twitter feed was.
Yeah, Donald Trump is a real fake, and they still bought it.
Yeah. So it's all good. Now I do want to relate back to. So I actually did have a point to this where I want to get down to this NFT thing. I was thinking about, obviously this movie right? Like what it means, and him thinking about the old Hollywood, how he romanticizes the old Hollywood, which by the way, he does, right?
Absolutely.
And the Hollywood that he romanticizes is the pre-1960s Hollywood, right? Not the 1970s Hollywood that we romanticize.
Right. No, he is very, very old school in that.
Old school Hollywood, right? So he's romanticizing that, and she is falling in the BS of the post. She Naomi Watts or Camilla, not
Betty slash
Diane,
yeah.
Betty/Diane is falling into the trap of 1990s Hollywood, right?
Yeah.
That's her Hollywood that is the problem Hollywood.
Yeah. She wants the dream, but the reality is
right.
taking her down.
So now let's take that analysis, and sorry, it's a long way around, but hopefully we'll get there. So what would that we feel? The question I brought up was like, does Lynch, is this a representation of how he sees Hollywood and how he feels betrayed as well?
I completely agree. I completely think that's
and
true.
So he's sitting there trying to masturbate his way out of it, and it never works, right?
Yeah. Right.
Whatever the situation is. But so what is the situation for him? And like, is an NFT situation working for him, right?
I believe
because what he's doing is he's doing the YouTube weather report.
Yeah. But I believe he is. I think he is also doing NFTs. He's partnering up with, I can't remember the artist, but he's doing NFTs, some global NFT thing. Like he sees some value in it. Like he understands that, and so like because his vision of how to make things, like I completely agree with this vision, which is like you should have complete artistic control of what you're making. Like that's it, and don't ever like the few times that he has dealt with studios have been traumatic disappointments for him. And so he learned to just make shit himself, develop his own fans, service those fans. They want the stuff. He sells them the stuff virtually directly now. Right. And it makes sense to him, like NFTs and whatnot. Like that's if they provide the ownership that as advertised, right, then I'm not surprised he's interested in them, because that is what he's always been like. He's like, I need to have total control over what happens with my art. It's my decisions. That's it. And there's not going to be no one can get in the way to say that it's going to be different or hold something over to me to make me do something else. So if that is what NFTs are offering, then that's why he's involved.
Right.
Like he has a romance of the old Hollywood, because even though old Hollywood was like that, romance is like the old Hollywood was not like old Hollywood said. It is a giant lie.
Here's what I'm
but
saying.
But the flavor of it that he fell in love with is what he wants to replicate himself.
I think when he did that thing that I pointed out earlier of the Edward Hopper painting, it is the mood and the feeling he got from old films. So it's not the studio system. From my take, is that it is the mood and the feeling it gave him over the years, that this kind of medium can create this enchantment.
It's the movie. Like it's
the movie itself, not it's the celluloid frame. Yeah. As a frame.
That's the dream.
That's the dream. And the girl sitting, matching that. That's what it is. So it's. I don't think it's a studio system. It's the way the imagery, and I resonate with a lot of that stuff. Coming, just as a painter, I love the imagery a lot more sometimes, and it's just that I find it. I could see where he finds that and falls in love with that. It makes him feel like something. And I really think I pulled it out of my behind with the Hopper, but I totally think, because I saw it, I was like, oh my God, that's Hopper. And because I always felt as a Philadelphian, he had this kind of Aikens kind of, he went to Philadelphia Academy of Fine Art. Right. I think he was at the same time this painter I knew in New York, who's a great painter. I have one of his pieces, Vincent Desiderio. And he, so I think it's the image and what it represents to you. Yeah. And
well, like that is, I think you're 100% right. And I feel like the basically the argument boils down to like there is this beautiful thing, like in that painting, the Hopper painting, there's a beautiful thing happening on a screen in the next room. There's a dream happening, right? That this woman clearly wants to be a part of. She's present nearby, but she can't directly experience because she's not in the same room. She's out in the reality hallway. Right.
Well, I was about to say she's reality, and that's the thing. Those paintings are not reality, but they bring. And some people try to live that as a reality, but it doesn't work.
And so, like for Lynch, like the business, like it's like people talk about the art world the same way. It's like the business of art. Like art is wonderful. The business of art is terrible. It's a fucking awful disaster, right? And the same is true for Hollywood. And the thing is that I think that Lynch recognizes this now, as he basically built it himself, is that the artist now has more direct control over what they do and can deliver it to an audience that loves it without any influence on him from other cowboys, right? Yeah. That's all right there.
That's true, though. That's
ready to happen.
Like this fucking guy with an accent, Texan cowboy.
No one comes in and gets the fucking bully.
Can't give me for my. Now it'd be interesting to know who produced his films over the year, and if any of them were Southern, because I feel like there was a personal jab as cowboy.
Cowboy.
Those big hats were from the films, or like if you were a singer or something, you had those big hats.
Yeah, the big hat. But yeah, this is the thing, dude.
It's it was like Tom Mix band.
Tom Mix, yeah, exactly. And so like the thing for Lynch, like he. Good.
Sorry, I think the hat is for those guys that do those horse shows before the bucking rodeo, but they stand on the horse and they'll, the showman and like big stunts stuff.
But yeah, like so, I think that like Lynch has been doing this himself because he used his name to build an audience that he now directly communicates with. He uses digital technology to keep the costs down. He likes it more. He generates material that basically goes straight through to the audience that he has created for himself, and there's no more interference. And that is true, that is available to be true for every single filmmaker on the earth right now. The only thing that stops us is because we have been so trained to think in the Hollywood studio system way that it doesn't occur to us that we don't have to act like that.
Yeah,
like it's like if it's like the if you it's like the in what do you call it Shawshank Redemption. It's like people that get out of prison don't know how to live outside of prison.
That's right.
And you have all these artists. You're just like, but you have total access to millions of people instantaneously for free. You can do anything you want. Why is this not happening? And they're like, no, but you have to go pitch stuff and go to the places. You do not. But keep on going. Do what you're doing, man. That's fine. But we are whipped dogs. We are creatively whipped dogs. And like the next generation is not going to be that way. They're like, I want to make stuff, and there's free ways to get it out there. So that's what I'm going to do.
I agree. Chris, what do you think?
Well, you guys are going down the path of what I wanted to go down, so I didn't interrupt you guys and let you go with that whole
hi Chris, welcome back.
I mean, it's exactly what I want to talk about is like what is he doing now. The creative group that's truly embraced this is ironically music industry. The music industry is seeing a lot more value in NFTs, and that's why people like Snoop Dogg and all those guys are thinking about the music industry, because they're tired of only getting pennies on Spotify, right? So like, let's just, instead of getting, a quarter, a 0.01 cent for every song that someone plays of mine on Spotify, let's hang around. I was like, now Spotify, listen, they have a business model that they're giving all this music out for a specific amount of money. They can't charge people $200 a month to make people, for their business model to work, right? So that's they're offering what the audience is willing to pay, which the audience is paying, right? And then making that happen. So that's the problem. It's like people don't buy albums anymore because it doesn't work. That buying a physical album of music doesn't work, but the NFTs is something that can work. Mm-hmm. So you keep the NFTs as an ability for your fans to say, I want to own part of this.
Right.
I actually want to feel like I own part of that process. And that they feel is a better value. Anyway, listen, we're close to our 3-hour mark. This was good. I didn't know we were going to go down this line, but I thought it was a good, good way to
Big
go.
shout out to Brian.
To Brian?
Brian, he's listening.
Okay.
Shout
out to Brian. Yo. Oh, there he is. There.
That's nice. Hello, Brian. Thank you.
Yo.
Yeah.
So I work with him. He's kind of my boss, but he's awesome. And he loves movies too. So we should get him on as a guest.
Devil Fast,
sure.
Thanks for coming by. Fantastic.
And he still feels bad for us that we saw Communion.
I will never live that down.
Because he saw it and he's like, oh my God, you were stuck with that?
He's looking at me going, like, you're friends with that guy? That's
Brian
ridiculous.
Said, Eric promised to show some skin.
We're working on it.
We're working on it. We're working on it.
We're working on it. Okay. But Brian, if you'd like actually to subscribe to us on Twitch, you don't have to do this, or whatever. But we'd love to have you on. Maybe we can have you for a watch party. If you have a really cheesy movie that you want to do for a watch party.
He's got some, he is subscribed. Thank you.
You are subscribed. Okay, great.
Thank you.
And
Excellent.
He is.
And then you should be on our Discord, Brian, as well. I don't know if you're on our Discord or not.
We'll get him on the Discord.
Get him on the Discord. And then we also have people come in. Yeah, like as Chris is saying, come in and co-host with us for watch parties. So get a movie.
He's also the gentleman that gave me that name I gave to you earlier, Dan.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
That place. Yes.
Of that place. Yes, that is a very excellent place.
Here's our link to our Discord, just so you know, so you can go on our Discord and join it. Nice. Lots of fun stuff that we discuss on Discord. Always
Beautiful.
A good thing.
A great place, says Devil Fast. Yes, it is.
Cool. All right. So cool. So yeah, definitely join. And then we'll give you access to the subscribers only lounge as well, so you guys can.
Good stuff happens. That's correct.
Yeah. So it'll be cool. Yay! Look, he's already on our Discord. Done.
Beautiful. Done.
Bam.
Thank you.
Just make sure that just go to the rules section, check on that, and then Fruity Pebbles will take care of you from there and make sure you get all the things you need. Awesome.
And Fruity Pebbles is his daughter who does the monitoring. So if you're going to make snarky adult jokes I did, make sure that you remember
don't tell jokes like Eric.
A 16-year-old is monitoring, because I was like, oh.
Yes.
But she does a great job. I got to tell you, she does a great job.
My daughter found out because she told my daughter, she's like, I don't know what to do about this. I made some joke about somebody we had a discussion with, and it was the next day. And I said, oh, that person's been sexting me all night. I don't know what to do. I've been kind of rolling with it, but I got to put my foot down and stop this.
But and because you have to,
my daughter was like, who is that person? Yeah. I was like, oh my God, no, I was joking.
Yeah, you're always joking, though.
No, I'm not. I'm being very serious.
You're joking.
I'm serious.
No, we don't know.
What do you mean? There's no mask. This is me.
This is it.
This is me.
It.
Come on.
The real deal. The real
Come
deal.
on, Nikki, get your boots. Come on. Let's go hunting.
That's right. See, this,
you got to throw in a deer hunter out of nowhere. All right. Welcome to Martini Giant. All right, guys. This has been great. Mulholland Drive, a true pleasure. Thank you for allowing me to share that experience. True thing. Think about it, though, both of you. Is there a film that you have had in the back of your mind if you always wanted to watch but never got to seeing? Because that's the theme that we're doing.
Yep, that's right. Go dig something up.
And we'll get Brian as a guest to watch a really bad film as a watch party.
If we can come up to the level of Breaker, then we are on top.
Breaker was a pretty good.
One of the great truckerless truck films.
Truckerless Truck Films presents.
I've got so much on my plate, but doing the posters for the Truckerless Truck Film Festival, our first annual, and also our first annual, I have a poster design for our first annual Day for Night Film Festival.
Oh, yeah.
All the best Day for Night shots in one night.
That's it. Nice. A full day of night shots.
A full night of Day for Night.
It's just clips from great, Guns of Navarone and everything. Oh my God. And then we'll have some guy from Kodak Labs in the 80s come and give a lecture.
Oh, dude. Yeah, especially
you know what? Actually, I could.
Joel Hynek.
Some of the old color timers that still are been around, they work at Photochem. they've been working for like 50 years. They know how to make a good day for night color. Like they know the timing to make a good day for night.
We should do that, like recipe night, and then sell those recipes as NFTs.
There you go. See, that's it.
And most people would buy them, but like, I don't know what is lab.
But it's like, man, did you see like those like you've seen the renowned westerns, right? All those like the tall tea and all that stuff. Like they did my favorite day for night of all time, which is like it's just that they shot in broad fucking daylight and pulled the film so hard that it's basically only highlights. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing looking. They get these like
best too. There's a period like the film Niagara. There's a period where Technicolor, if you guys don't know the film Niagara, it's such a cool looking film. But there's a like 53, 54, 55, 57, 58. There's like the color and the night shots were so cool. Yeah. And I think that's what also inspires David Lynch.
Yeah, for sure. It's so dreamy. It's really wonderful. And actually, I just read Jordan Peele when he was making Nope. Nope has a lot of night scenes that are really beautifully shot. And it turns out they're doing a new day for night process. Which is essentially because they're shooting broad daylight and like middle of the afternoon, and then they're shooting simultaneously with color and infrared, and then they merge these two so that you're picking up the details that you would normally pick up in moonlight, and colorizing them with the color.
Have you seen people using infrared film?
Oh, it's great.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, it's a really great idea.
I do. What my first experience of seeing like something looks weird and I realized it was day for night was when I watched very early, like I was probably like 7. I watched I Was a Teenage Werewolf.
Oh yeah, hey, that's a good movie. That's actually a good movie. That's not even a silly movie. That's actually a pretty good movie. Yeah. There's some day for night in that action, boy. No doubt.
Yeah, there's some good day for night there, right?
And some Michael Landon.
Yeah, some Michael Landon.
And this is very.
Then we can have the Michael Landon Day for Night Film Festival.
The Michael Landon Day.
All the best of Michael Landon and Day for Night in one night. So come and join us.
That is like a nice little
that would work. I'm telling you, these are ideas that people would pay a lot of money for.
That's it.
I think.
Rated L for gratuitous scenes of Landon. That's right.
The Landon Festival.
The Landon Festival.
The Landon Day for Night Festival.
Day for Night. That's nice. I love it.
At the Holiday Inn in Tempe, Arizona. So join us.
That's a great Holiday Inn, though.
It is actually very good. And they got a great screening room.
That's
true. And breakfast. Their sweet rolls are delicious.
Sweet rolls. Yeah, exactly.
What? No jelly roll?
Tempe.
What movie is that from, Dan?
Jelly roll? Don't know.
What? No jelly rolls?
I know that. I'm embarrassed. I don't know.
Touch of Evil.
Oh shit! I am embarrassed. My God,
you should be embarrassed.
I am very embarrassed.
That's like a framed. We should do a framed where it's just a quote.
Oh man, that's brutal that I lost on that one. I should have thought harder.
Just
that's
find
sad.
Girl,
I love Touch of Evil. Love Touch of Evil.
Okay.
Jelly roll.
Chris has got to go.
I don't. And I've got to. But I do want to stop the podcast because I have things to do. But
I got to go back to work. So yes, let's
wrap it up. Thank you guys. Thank you for joining us.
That was fun. I think we should do the weekly.
By the way,
nice.
For a Thursday, we still.
Thanks everybody in chat. Thanks everybody who's listening. That's amazing.
Why don't we start doing a weekly one too, where it's totally different, where we can actually work and do it?
I can work. I have been working and doing this. Absolutely,
Chris.
I can do this every day.
I'll think about it.
Yeah. No, like a weekly podcast, or like on a Thursday night, and then we do a Saturday night big blitz.
The problem is my work is mostly answering emails, and I can't podcast and answer emails at the same time.
Yes, you can.
No,
I can have the Eric and Dan painting and chatting podcast, and I'll just host it on the side. I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
There we go. Just blathering.
I mean, totally happy to do that.
And all the money we make for the Day for Night Film Festival, Dan and I might share some with you.
That's it. I'm
just letting you know.
Me and Michael
still
Landon.
A WIP.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds fabulous.
Well, excellent. Thank you very much, everybody in chat. That was absolutely awesome.
That was awesome.
And we will be back on track after the next 2 weeks because Chris will be away.
2 weeks, and then we promise I will make it. I will add more redundancy into the system so that in case I'm away, the podcast can still happen. But, we will work on that. Unfortunately, just a lot of stuff going on right now. But excited. But we are working, man. I'm telling you, Martini Giant is on a path to becoming something even bigger than a podcast. So I'm excited about that. It's
grand. You'll see.
Grand. Many things. Many things. All right. You guys ready for this?
I'm ready, baby.
All right. Drink.
Talk.
Drink.